Everybody out here? Everybody out here, we ready?
Thanks, man. This is gonna be a long meeting.
All right, we reconvene from executive session and we'll go into recess for a few minutes while What is this? Oh, okay.
It's already 6:45.
Do what?
Are we in recess?
We're in recess.
Recess just for a few minutes while he gets this together. You got a whole bunch of stuff.
Number 6.
This could be order.
Yeah,
I think he's got them all put together because they're the same.
Yeah. 5, that's number 5. Moving city council meeting. Nobody's trying to give away their time.
The fire marshal went out, supposedly.
Just it's different when you read it yourself.
That's why there's a new firehouse right there.
Vote 3 and 4.
Like lunch. Austin with lunch. I'm tired, 500 friends. Good to see everybody.
What does that mean? Same thing? Come on, that takes all the fun away. Right, do it 4. I already scratched that out.
Yeah.
Okay, where's my agenda? And pass it down to Sandra. All right, is everybody back? Let me get my computer going again. All right, we reconvene from recess at 6:47 PM. We go into open session to act as deemed appropriate in city council's discretion regarding A, consultation with legal counsel and possible action concerning any regular meeting agenda item requiring confidential attorney-client advice necessitated by the deliberation or discussion of said item as needed.
No action.
All right, Sandra, please note, we still have all of our council members here. If you would, please join me for the invocation, the pledge allegiance to the U.S. and the pledge allegiance to the Texas flag. Hope we're good with that.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty that you surround us with today, Lord. We thank you for the ability to gather today as a community, for the ability to allow the governing body to make decisions that would be in the best interest of our city, Lord. We just thank you for all the many blessings that you provide us each and every day for good weather, for the lakes, for the hills, and for people, Lord. We thank you for the right to speak, the right to have an opinion, and the right to be heard and listened to and respected, Lord. We just ask that you be with the council this evening, guide them with wisdom, let them listen, let them hear the things that are said, and let them make the decisions that are best for our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag. Honor
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Huh? I about got it.
I saw that. I followed you.
All right, citizen comments. In accordance with Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. I do not have anybody that has signed up to speak during this portion of the meeting. However, if there's anybody who would like to address the council on anything not on our agenda at this time, please raise your hand. All right, we will move into items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the city council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders regarding city council events, reminders regarding community events, and health and safety announcements. Does anybody have anything?
Mr. Mayor, on the 29th, there is the Primavera Bike Race by the Chamber. It's the 29th and the March 1st. It's a 2-day race. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be standing on the corner with a stop sign and, so it's a lot of fun out there watching the bikers, and all are welcome.
And if you have a business, you can put up a sign relating to your business while you hold a stop and go.
You can.
You can.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
13 slots still open for
Um,
volunteers.
13 slots still open. Hello, everybody out there in TV land. 13 slots still open. Can those bicycles see those signs when you're
Oh,
We
yeah.
hope they can.
advertising your business?
Well, you put a placard next to where you stand.
Mayor, on the 29th as well, you have the concert. It'll start, the Ross Ellis Live in Lago concert at the PAC. Doors will open at 6 o'clock, concert starting at 7 o'clock.
That is a busy day. They shouldn't have that extra day in there.
It's a leap day. It's a special event.
I believe, three ESD1 representatives here. I believe ESD has their awards banquet on the 29th as well.
Yep.
Busy night.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. We are going to skip forward in your program. We're going to go to agenda item number 6. Discussion, consideration, and possible action considering ESD 1 and 7 expenses and fees related to the construction costs of Fire Station 101 on Bronco Lane and Fire Station 103 on Lowman Ford Road. Let me get to that on my computer here. Number 6. So all of y'all, I presented y'all with the spreadsheet last session, right? Did everybody get a chance to, did y'all get a chance? Did you see that in the agenda packet last meeting? Well, basically it was a breakdown of what their fees and stuff that they had incurred during this process. It came up to just under $125,000, $124,800 and something
$124,868.07.
Yes. Okay, so that was the fees and expenses that they have occurred up to this point. They had, so we brought that forward to see if council wanted to take any action on refunding what they have paid, maybe waiving what they have not paid yet. There is still an outstanding balance on portion of that. And then they came to us with two other projects that are going to have to be completed. One is being a water line to the Lowman Ford Station, coming off of Lowman Ford Road, a line that'll feed. Looks like possibly by the diagram, it looks like an 8-inch line, a 6-inch meter with an 8-inch line that'll tee off and feed the station at one point with the residential line, and then it'll continue on and feed a dead-end hydrant that will be used strictly for training purposes. That project, and then running the wastewater connection across Lowman Ford Road. They had asked possible for some help with those two projects. I had staff do the numbers, and what was it, 58,000?
Total project on that one, Mayor, 58,381.
58,381. So tonight, what we're looking at is the 124.8 and the 58,000 to see.
And is that with the meter too, Ms. Mayor? Is that?
That
with the meter also?
58,000 includes the 8-inch line, the 6-inch meter,
Meter.
and then the connections to the station and to that training hydrant. I did some investigation today on metering water lines and stuff. The fire demand meters are very common on sprinkler systems used in commercial buildings, and they have been used for hydrants that are not for fire suppression. So it would have to be strictly for training only. So that hydrant would have to be painted black or whatever color is out of service and not used for fire suppression, just for training.
Question.
It's like,
Yes.
Are we talking about the extension of the city's water line to the station?
Yes.
Along Lowman?
It's not the city's line, it would be the customers from where they tap in
To the station?
to the station
Yeah,
and to
that's
that
what I'm
training
trying to, I
hydrant.
thought there was I thought I heard that, I think there is an extension of the city's water line along Lowman, correct?
Correct. Mayor, there's the water line, the 16-inch water line is on Lowman, so it's there. The sewer line is on the opposite side of the road. So that 58,381 is the estimate from CTX to extend the sewer and then run the line on site.
So the 58,381 includes a cost to run a city line extension across Lowman to tap into the existing city sewer line. So somebody's going to build an extension of a city line, correct?
No.
Okay.
It's a tap for the fire department, for the ESD.
At the street.
Do you want to see that? Maybe not.
it just goes.
Well,
across.
if they're going across the street, if they're going across Lowman, in other words, they're going to cut Lowman and go across the street, that's not a tap. That's going to be a city-owned line under Lowman, correct?
Same as every residential house, yes,
And that's part of the 58.
correct.
How much is that?
The HDPE service on that shows 7,381. Again, this is an estimate from a local contractor to provide the service to ESD.
Mr. Mayor, so the total expense we're talking about tonight is 183,249 from those two figures. So what is the
Yes.
thought process?
So there are three portions to that,
Okay,
okay? The total pay, which is approximately 83,500.
okay.
Whether or not we would want to refund any or all of that. The second one would be.
And is that the impact fee?
Oh,
Or
it's,
or what was that?
What happened since November?
The impact fee, Mayor, on the Lowman Ford site is an estimated $40,000. That's $24,000 for the water line and $16,920 for the sewer line.
yeah, if you look at page
90.
90,
90,
it's got the full breakdown.
okay.
So of that 124,8, 80, all but 61,000 roughly has been paid. And that's the one that we approved the payment plan on.
Got it.
So first is, do we refund any or all of the 83.5? Second is the portion that is under that payment plan, would we want to take a look at that and waive that? That money has not been paid to us yet. It's still on the payment plan. And then the third is the additional work, which is the water line and the sewer line taps, that comes out to a little over 58,000. Do we want to, what would we be willing, any or all of that work? Clear? Dave?
Got it.
Okay. Anything you want to add? All right. Chief? Chief, is there anything that you would like to address council on at this time?
No, Mayor, I think you've covered all of it. So again, any help would be appreciated. We've built these fire stations. Some of these fees were not anticipated for whatever reason. You know, I don't want to keep looking backwards. It's expensive to build buildings in this area with the topography and everything that we do, and there's been a lot of challenges to get the stations done. Again, we could pay these fees. Let me make that clear, that we could use money out of our maintenance and operating to pay the fees. It would not come out of the building fund, as some other piece of equipment would probably suffer down the road. We could recover from it, but if the city's in a position to waive the fees, we're not asking for the city to give us money, just don't charge us the money. Impact for the two fire stations. And we've got the sewer and water to the street. If there's some kind of consideration to help us make that tap, that would be appreciated. We've taken care of the Lowman Ford. That's done. So we're only talking, or the Bronco Lane, excuse me. So we've already taken care of one. That's off the table. But if we could get some help making that water and sewer connection at the other station, it would be appreciated. And I think all of our citizens would benefit from the consideration.
Does anybody on
Yeah.
council have questions for Chief Norman?
I want to review some things, and I got a suggestion. I don't know that I necessarily need your answer.
Okay?
These charges started from the get-go, from the day we broke ground. And I was approached by others over a period of time about helping the fire department out, but I thought it was because we were a Lago Vista city and you're a political entity from Travis County. And then I got accosted a couple times, and so I started to look into this. And so what I mentioned last week is that we as citizens, not the city of Lago Vista, but as citizens, have been paying at the start 1.8 million, 2 million, 2.2, and I think your budget for 2018 was 5.4. I think we're 20% of your budget. That, in the poker terms, is what you are pot committed. We are in this. And this tax doesn't end, and it has no cap. So it's been increasing at about 9% for the last 3 years because our property value has increased, and the tax is based on taxable value. So you have to ask yourself this year, will that tax go up? Will it go down? Will it stay the same? What will happen over time? Because the tax will go with what we do. These amounts of monies today are being asked to the same citizens through the city of Lago Vista to pay an additional monies out of our tax dollars that we paid to the city of Lago Vista, in addition to what we paid directly. And then we have another problem that's going to surface soon enough called liquid assets, water. And we did a small change, 2% in, earlier this year because we needed to replenish our backup and the fact that we don't pay the full charge for our water. So my question is, we've got this money into the game, it's gonna be into the game, as does Lago Vista, as Jonestown and Point Venture and everybody else. I would like to entertain the thought of incorporating the ESD into the Lago Vista City Fire Department.
Well, it doesn't happen that simple.
Well, I understand it doesn't happen that simple, but we don't have any representation for the tax that we're paying.
I think you have a pretty good fire department, Mr. Collins, and I think you're misleading the citizens. So first and foremost, our tax doesn't go up any more than the city of Lago Vista tax. So when the property values rise, the city of Lago Vista, you've been at 0.65 for a long time, we've been at 0.10. So to think that we're the only people that gets a little bit of an increase. So
But it's
first and
still
foremost,
at
I'll let you talk,
100%
sir.
of that.
I mean, I didn't interrupt you, so please let me finish. The second part of that is, I'm not asking the city to give us any money. I'm asking you, don't charge us any money for impact fees to build 2 fire stations to protect you. So the ESDs are one of the least funded people in Travis County. We're 1.27% of your tax dollars of the entire tax bill. So 2 ESDs is 2.54%, a hell of a lot less than what the city of Lago Vista charges. So let's don't start pointing fingers back and forth. So we provide a good service.
We are paying that.
You are paying it, and I pay city taxes. 0.65 city taxes, what does the citizens of Cedar Park and Leander pay? And that includes fire and EMS. So, yeah, we don't want to talk about, tax dollars going back and forth. We're well underfunded. So,
Well, you got 14 million in debt. How's that underfunded? I mean,
What's the debt of
The reason
what?
we're here is because, and I've been talked to and accosted and told I was gonna be subject to a recall.
not by me.
Well, I don't know who, it ended quickly because I was questioning this. Why do you have financial problems?
We do not
Why are
have
we here
financial
for this?
problems. We have every year, we get audited and we get the highest marks for the audit. Our audit last year was perfect. Our audit this year will be perfect. So that's a misstatement that we have financial problems. What's the city of Lago Vista debt?
What is it? I don't know.
36 million.
36
So
million.
36 million, we got 14 million.
All I'm saying is we both have a problem. Can we
No, that's not what you were
coordinate
saying. No, you were saying we had a problem and you don't have a problem.
this? Well,
Your
I,
problem is misstating facts.
as a representative, I'm not in charge of these taxes that these folks are paying to you.
Or to you.
I am for the ones I pay for the city of Lago Vista and they pay to me.
Well, these citizens voted to give us our tax
I
dollars.
understand that, but I think we're a frog in a boiling pot.
I don't know what your point is.
It's gonna continue to grow. And at what point do we decide, oh, it's too much? And by having you as part of our operation, and we don't have any complaint about what we're paying you or what we're paying to support the fire department. We still continue to do ILE, whatever that needs.
So I offer to you that there needs to be an election. You should call for the election if that's what you want to do. So all citizens of ESD1 has to vote, everybody that's there.
Correct.
You could take yourself out of ESD1 and start a Lago Vista Fire Department if that's what you want to do.
I don't
So
know
be
if
it. That's not
the
my
right choice.
decision. I can't make that decision. I'm before you to ask you to not charge me $125,000 of impact fees to build 2 fire stations in your city to help protect your citizens. That is the only thing I'm asking. And I've got the water and sewer to the street, and I'm asking you as a city is to bring the water and sewer to where I've taken it to the road. That are the 2 things that I've asked you to do. And I think it's a pretty simple request. We spent a lot of time on this. I don't know why that you're posturing against the fire department. I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm just trying to protect you. If you don't want to do it as a council, I respect your decision. Vote no, that's fine. We'll take the money. We won't buy an ambulance. We won't buy a brush truck. We'll continue on to do what we're doing every day. We'll protect you. We are the only agency in Travis County that's even accredited right now. So
It's taxation without representation.
I don't know how you have a board that 2 of those board members live in Lago Vista. I don't know how you think you're
That's
not
not our
represented.
board.
And I will tell
It's
you,
Travis County.
previous councils all attended our ESD board meetings. I've not seen any of y'all come to an ESD1 board meeting.
I tried to find your minutes online.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, it's an idea.
I don't think that we're going to solve this issue of whether it should be a city fire department. We're here to look at what the issue is, what the dollars are, how we can get the fire stations open and protect the citizens. So, you know, I would like to hear different options on what the council thinks, how much money we can spend, how much money we can contribute to this. Or are we gonna put the pipes in the ground for free? Not whether we're going to be a city firehouse or, Donnie, we're not in an argument on, you know.
Mr. Williams, I've never had a disagreement with you. You've always been polite, respectful.
So
So
let's try to figure out how we can solve the problem.
Well, I'll offer up my opinion first then.
Okay.
To me, we should just forget about what's already been paid, that outstanding 61,000 roughly that's on the payment plan. I say we go ahead and waive that at this point, and that we look at installing the water and wastewater lines at no cost.
We have to do that.
Mayor, we're not installing those.
Hold up.
I want to clarify, one of the things that the chief said was that the impact fees total were 120-some thousand. The impact fees for both stations, the total is 81,840. Each station, the impact fees for water and wastewater are 40,920. To install that water line, with the water and wastewater line on Lowman, would be for the city to contract with CTX in the amount of $58,000. So it wouldn't be the city installing it, so we're not absorbing that. We would be paying $58,581 to CTX
You can't do that.
to install that, is what I'm saying.
So,
You
so
can't-
a clarification of that money, that 124.8, currently right now, about 16,000 of it is services that have been provided by city staff. Okay, so that's, City of Lago Vista taxpayer dollars have, if we refunded them, would be like $16,000. Okay, but that's part of the portion that I say we don't waive because that's been paid.
Okay.
Again, as city manager just pointed out, the impact fees are 81,840 of that 124. So about 40-something others were permits, the 16,000 that was work performed by city staff. So not all of it is impact fees. Some are tap fees and things like that. Now, the additional work that we're looking at, that 58,000, because we would be paying or contracting somebody. Now, that would also be City of Lago Vista taxpayer money going in addition to. So for those of y'all that consider certain things double taxation because of the services that the city has provided and this 58,000, we would be looking at about 74,000 that you could argue were double taxation on the citizens. But that is my recommendation, and you say you have a comment about the actual work?
Yeah, the point I would make is I think if we spend any money on a project that's over $50,000, we got to bid it. And so we couldn't just select a contractor. But that's minor. And can I make another, tell you where I am?
Sure.
And as you and I think David have pointed out, what we're talking about is spending our taxpayers' money. And so what is the proportion of our taxpayers, what we pay to the ESD as a proportion of the whole? We're about, I'm told, our revenue is about 30% of their revenue. Now, regardless, we're going to do something. Who's going to pay that? It's not the chief. Well, he'll pay a little bit, but the taxpayers are going to pay it. I think that our share of this cost, in other words, our taxpayers' share, is a function of our share of their revenue, which is 30%. And I've heard a couple of numbers, but that number for me, I believe, is $37,460.40. So that's about where my number is for the whole shooting match that's our share on the fundamental idea that if this was in the city, they wouldn't pay us again. However, I don't want to take our taxpayers' dollars that somebody else is supposed to pay for and use our money that others are supposed to pay for. So I'm around 37.5.
Mr. Mayor, everybody else is throwing theirs out, I'll throw my numbers out. As I've said, as far as I'm concerned, the impact fees for the second station, really, I can figure a way that that's not necessary. You're closing down one station, you're opening another station. So the 40,920 for the Lowman Ford station, I can justify exempting that and taking that off the monies owed. As far as the taps are concerned, when it actually comes to paying money, I am to the point that has been expressed here. This is our citizens' money. This is money that they have paid in taxes to this city that we're now using for another taxing entity. And I can justify doing our share. A lot of the rest of that is for the 30-some thousand people that are covered in the ESD. So at 58,000, my thought is that I can justify 20,000 of that. So to my mind, my recommendation to everyone would be that we do away with the impact fees for the Lowman station to the sum of $40,920, and that we allocate $20,000 to the work for the line extensions and metering. Total of $60,920.
To pay that.
All right.
So, Mr. Mayor, a question for the chief. We keep talking about our fair share. I think we're carrying about 30% of the bill. We get about 70% of the calls, right?
Yeah, it's about 49 to 52%, depending on what the time is. But, one comment that I think that's being ignored here is currently the Jonestown station answers more calls in the city of Lago Vista than the Lago Vista station. So keep that in the back of your mind. The Jonestown station was built 10, 11, 12 years ago. The city of Jonestown did not ask anybody else to pay any of the fees. The city of Jonestown waived all those fees. They put in all the water lines. The Water Supply Corporation recently put in a fire hydrant on that station, our request for training. We do not have a meter, so there was no consideration given to Lago should pay their fair share. Jonestown ponied up the entire amount of money. At the exact same time, the station was built in Sandy Creek. Same thing, Travis County, the private Water Supply Corporation, there was no fees that were paid by any other entity. My point in that is wherever the stations were built, it seems like that they just accepted the fact.
How long ago was that?
10 years, 11 years. These two stations were built in the city of Lago Vista to predominantly serve the Lago Vista citizens. Again, I made the point at the last council meeting, for every one time a Lago Vista unit leaves Lago Vista to go someplace else in my large district to serve, a fire truck comes into Lago Vista 7 times from somewhere else to serve where we're at. And I'm trying to eliminate that problem. I'm trying to keep the trucks inside the station or inside the city of Lago Vista. Again, the $1.8 million,
As soon as we open the stations, they'll be there.
they will be there. And you'll have 11 people here. And again, 11 people means for a fire department, you have to have 33 people to have 11 on duty every day. Do the math on it to 1.8 million, 2 million, 2.5, 3 million. You grow it however big you want. $3 million does not put 11 firefighters, paramedics on duty every day in the city of Lago Vista. Y'all are getting a bargain.
I still want to see it open. I still want to see staff to have no problem with that.
Sir,
Mayor,
that,
Where the money is.
can I,
Well, I'm still on the Dawn right now.
So my next question was the part that we were going to, $58,000, we're gonna contract that out. City crews are completely capable of doing that, so we don't necessarily have to hire a contractor for that, correct?
I don't know.
Is that-
Josh?
Mayor, I disagree that we want to install the line. I think if council does anything towards that, it would be, it's a project for the ESD. Let them manage it and you provide dollars back towards it. It's not our project.
But our crews used to do all the extensions, right?
Not
And
all.
the
They-
taps, but
They do the majority of them, and they have done the majority of them.
right
The
now,
bores
there's-
and the underneath the road still not something that we're going to do every time, or the cut if we got to do a cut on Lowman.
So when we go under 1431 for the sports complex, are we not doing that? Is that contracted out?
Contract.
Mayor,
So did
could-
you have a thought on?
I think we're getting a bargain, and I think we should give them the whole amount. And when you add that up to $183,000, it reminds me of a spending amendment to the budget in January to repair 3 holes on a golf course. And I just feel like this is a service that every citizen will benefit from. You might not have experienced it yet, but I've seen it a bunch of times. Everybody gets help. Everybody needs help. There's no reason to be having this discussion. We should.
All right. Thank you. Arch.
Mayor, I'm all in favor of proportionality, and I think that was the area that we were going to talk about before when the chief brought it up the last time. So I like the idea of what Frank is proposing, that we pony up basically 30% of whatever it is that needs to be refunded. One of the things that Chief pointed out the last time, and he did again this time, is that we end up having a lot more calls here in Lago Vista than other areas. Well, I looked at the population of the 3 areas that you service, and just using the population figures from the U.S. Census back in 2010, it turns out that we represent 70% of the area that you service back in 2010. I have no reason to believe that has not transferred, in that same vein to the current time. So to try to anticipate the number of calls that you would field out here, I would think that 70% of the calls that you take would be out here in Lago Vista. Not just fire, but we have emergency services that you provide where you respond to people that have personal emergencies. And so I think it's perfectly okay to anticipate that we would represent 70% of your calls.
Mayor, the population though, that's a different number. The chief said last time he serves a 37,000 population district. We're 8,000 people. So not just Jonestown, Point Venture, and in Lago Vista, but it's a 37,000 person district. And so the math there is, we're a lot less than that number. Just making sure we're representing that area.
Well, I'm just
completely.
using the figures that were available back in 2010. We don't know really what those figures are currently. We know, we can anticipate that we're probably growing at a slightly quicker rate than other areas that are serviced by ESD1. So I like the idea of whatever we need to do proportionally is the way that we should be looking at this.
So you're along the 37.5 that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, what was the number that you came up with, sir?
Mine was 119,000. That was including the 61 that is, remains unpaid and the 58,000 for the future work.
I haven't heard anyone say, Frank says that we'd have to bid out the job to do the water line. So, Donnie, can you handle the 58,381? And the other option would be for us to just waive $124,868.07 and it's squared up. You know?
That is an option.
You know, I mean, we didn't create this situation, nor, okay? And we didn't, I guess before the stations were being built, if we could have had some impact into discussion with this, but that was way before this other councils when this was being all discussed. So
Yeah, but
all
yeah,
I
Mr.
want to do
Williams.
is try to figure out a way to fix the situation and keep it clean. And with Frank saying, if we just spend over $50,000, we got to put it out to bid. They already know what it's going to cost them to do, so let them do it. We waive the $124,000 and move on. Simple as that. I don't know.
Little different there, Mayor. The total due is not $124,000 for Lowman. So just remember, you're actually, in the word, you'll credit part of that, and then you would have to refund to get to that number. I just want to make sure that
Would we have to do that with the 119,000?
you would.
We
Because the
still
total due for the Lowman Ford station is not that amount. So look at the fees due for Lowman Ford.
Okay.
61,223.09. So if you do 124, then you're writing a check back for $79,000 just in the word choice.
For impact fees.
Well, that's the impact fees total are 81. So if you do just the impact fees for both two stations, that's 81,840. So you would waive impact fees for Lowman Ford. You'd give a check back in the amount of 40,920 to the ESD for what they paid for Bronco. Impact fees. Just so we're talking about the same words.
So, Mr. Mayor, I got one other question. From a staff standpoint, do you have a number in your mind that would hit and be effective for our budget and make it effective for us to move forward?
No.
Without going into a whole big,
No.
long, drawn-out thing.
You vote, we'll do what you tell us to do, and we'll make it work.
Okay.
Well, let me see if I can phrase it this way. Would it be easier to waive the outstanding 61,000 whatever and pay the contractor to do the work up that's still remaining? Or would it be easier to waive the 61,000 that's unpaid and refund the other 80 some odd thousand?
So you went from 119 to 140?
24.
Well, 60 and 80. Yeah, so
Well, okay, 60 and,
not pay the contractor, Mayor.
okay.
So whatever we do, it would be easier to waive something and hand the chief a check and let him do with it what he wants to do with it than us to say we're paying this towards something.
All right. So that's Dave's suggestion.
So we could just waive the 83,500 and be done with it?
No. The 81, are you talking just impact fees?
Yeah, just the impact fee.
Credit them. Let me make this very clear. We would say, Chief, you don't have to pay $40,920 for Lowman Ford impact fees.
Okay.
And then if we wanted to give back a check, we would write them a check, $40,920.
For money we've collected from them.
Exactly. So
But he-
basically it's a refund, but we have to hand them back the check.
But they would still be on the hook for the 61,000 that's in the payment plan.
No,
Oh,
because
you're talking, so you're not
waived.
saying,
no, the 61,000 includes the impact fees. So the 61,000 includes $40,920 in impact fees. If we gave them,
why do we have to break it down by the fee? Why can't we just do a number?
I said that before, but now we keep talking about impact fees. And when we're talking about impact fees, the whole point was, and the chief said it, hey, don't charge us impact fees. That's why you asked for all these numbers. This is what they are.
So in November, we're talking about terms that they're gonna pay us. Now we're paying them a $40,000 check.
Yeah, so that number in November, Mayor, that was 61,000 and some change, and that was broken down into 5 years worth of payments. So if we work on the 61,000 number,
You're good.
If you work on the 61,000 number, Mayor, maybe that goes back to what you're saying. That would be tap fees, connection fees, and impact fees for Lowman Ford Station. So in theory, if you waived all of that, then that's the number where you'd come out for Lowman Ford Station.
Chief, whatever we decide tonight, does that allow you to finish the stations? Will that get us any closer?
So let me make it clear that if you give me nothing, those stations will be built. I mean, so I want to make sure that y'all understand that.
Will it make it faster? Is it easier?
What it will do, it will mean that I don't have to take the money out of my maintenance and operating budget that I use for other things. So as far as facilitating the building of the stations, it's probably not going to make a difference. Where it's going to make a difference is right now I need to buy an ambulance, I need to buy a cardiac monitor, I have some other needs that we would use the money to pay the city for those fees. So I can't tell you, I can't hold that as hostage saying if you don't give this to me, the stations won't be built. And I know you're not, I just want to make it clear, I don't want to mislead you, that it's not going to speed up the building of the stations, but it will not make me take money out of another fund to complete the station on Lowman Ford.
How soon do you think the bond money will come through to help you complete them?
Well,
Grand opening.
I have the architect here. I don't want to put him on the spot, but he's probably more of an expert to talk on some of those things.
Where is he?
If y'all would like to, you want to come in, sir? Yeah.
Question.
Yeah. So,
We just want to
I
open them
want to know, why do we need to hear from you?
up. Okay,
We're looking at numbers here. Why do we need to hear from an architect?
I'm just trying to see when we would have a grand opening at the fire.
well, there is no one that wants those stations open more than we do.
Yes, Frank.
Thanks. Before tonight, we had a payment plan for over 5 years, correct?
That is correct.
So none of this, whatever we do, he's not going to write us a check for that unless we somehow do away with 5-year deal. So what is how much does he owe us? He owes us 124. But that's over 5 years, isn't it?
It's 61,000 over 5 years.
61,000 over 5 years.
And that was the payment.
It's only
plan
the
of-
61 over 5.
Yeah. that
The
was
fire department has already
12,500.
paid all of the fees on the Bronco station.
I got it.
Okay, so all we're looking at is just the Lowman fees, and that's the 61,000.
Well, that's not what I heard earlier. I'm trying to get to here's another alternative. I like the mayor's idea of one number. And let the staff and whoever figure out where that number falls. 2, the chief has indicated this is a hit on him this year. We already did a deal for 5 years. I'm okay with another 5. I would like to get the taxpayers' money back or out proportionate to what we owe and not a disproportionate amount from our taxpayers. That's my deal, and that's okay as long as we string it out. So that's just a thought.
So the contract hasn't been executed. So it's been approved, but we didn't bring it forward. The reason we agreed to that is so that we wouldn't hold anything up. That seemed to be the path of least resistance at the time. Some more dialogue among some council members came that's like, this is not a dead deal. We need to have a public hearing, so that's why the contract hasn't been executed. So the deal is approved on your end, the deal's approved on our end, but no one has brought it forward, so that's out there. So it's not anything that's actually in place as we speak today. And, gentlemen, I do not want this to be ugly. We represent the same citizens, and nothing I say is painting the picture, but Lago Vista, for the $2 million a year that you are paying me, is getting a bargain. You could not, for $3 million or $4 million, provide 2 ladder trucks, 2 pumpers, 2 ambulances, and 11 people on duty every day for the money that Lago Vista is paying. You could double it. If we want to talk proportion, Lago Vista is getting a hell of a deal. It's the people that's in Point Venture out west who has a larger home value. Those are the people that is paying the bill for the Lago Vista citizens.
You're paying 40%.
Regardless of what it is, Mr. Collins, I mean, let's don't talk percentages. Let's just talk reality. To get your ISO Class 2, you have 2 brand-new ladder trucks.
You have a
two-
budget.
2 stations.
40% of it.
And it should be 60. I mean, if you look at what we're paying, we are 60% of our budget is spent to protect Lago, and Lago is paying 40% of that money. So other people are making up the difference.
Yes, Frank.
I think I'm about where Dave is. That's why I was looking over at his place. That I would prefer not to debate a speaker.
Right.
If we're going to debate, then let's hammer it out. And I think we were getting there. So let me just give you an example, and you guys are used to this. Some of the statements the chief last made, I could argue with for a while. I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so I would hope that some, Mayor, if we somehow could finish this bad boy up between us so that we don't have to get involved in a discussion or a debate with the chief.
Well, I do have some citizens that have signed up to speak. Would y'all like to hear them at
Yeah,
this time?
but this,
Would you want to come to a number?
I would
No.
like to hear the citizens speak. We're representing the citizens. We've got a
Yeah,
bunch
no,
of them
no,
here.
no, I'm
Let's
not-
let them throw out some numbers and some opinions. And
sure, but what my point would be, Mayor, if I might respond, is that I don't know that it helps us get to where we want to be in this case by debating the folks at the podium.
Right. I agree. All right, I'm going to excuse you
Dave.
for the moment,
All right, Mayor.
Chief, and I'm
Thank
going to
you.
bring up Gerald, I believe it's Dasbach?
I've got one question, is all, and it's directed at Mr. Chief Norman.
All right, please state your name and
Gerald
city
Dasbach.
of residence.
At 18306 Austin Boulevard. I want to ask him a question in the fact that, in the current capacity of the SD services today, do you feel you have the coverage to cover the existing density as it is?
No, absolutely not. I'll give you an example. This happened 90 days ago. We're in Sandy Creek. Every single truck that we have is battling a brush fire, and we get a house fire, a working house fire in Twin Picture. The first truck to arrive on scene came from the city of Austin. So we do not have enough resources out here. We are well underfunded. So we need more revenue and less calls.
Didn't you almost lose 2 guys last year?
We did.
Okay. I just want to ask those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dale Mitchell.
Dale Mitchell, 20908 South Ridge, Lago Vista. Again, gentlemen, thank you for serving us as city council members and mayor. What I didn't hear any of you talk about was what the impact fees are for. I've told you that in the TML guide for revenues, it's a way of revenues, making money, putting them in the impact fee fund, which is separate from your operating fund or anything else. And you can only use them out of your impact fee fund for future infrastructure building. Now, so why, and all the way through your ordinance, for impact fees, water and wastewater, it talks about the developer and the development. It's a way of taking population growth development and charging them an impact fee and putting it in your impact fee fund so you can take care of future water and wastewater needs. It's not taxpayer money that you've already collected. It's not coming through your taxes. It's money that it's a revenue source. So you've mischaracterized the citizens' money because it's probably not even in your budget for bringing in new revenue for the impact fee fund. It's a way you figure out how you do with the future bond issues and the future wastewater things. Now, in terms of whether or not you would call, say, when the POA built the K Oaks Clubhouse in 2000, would you charge them an impact fee for building the clubhouse that is an amenity to the entire homeowners association here? Would you?
Yes, I'm not part of the homeowners association.
Is a POA a developer?
I'm not a part
Are
of
they a
POA.
developer? Are they in the development process? Was it a population growth that when they built that? No. It's not a direct population growth when you build 2 fire stations here in Lago Vista. It's a service, a safety service. Now, one thing you probably guys don't know is a lot of firemen talk to each other all across the state and the county. We've got 2,700 fire departments in the state. 300 of them are ESDs, and therefore they have a different collection of tax and funding. The other 2,400 are municipal fire departments. And you do not charge your own fire department an impact fee when they build a new fire station. So I consider our ESD, our own fire station, our own fire company, I'm talking
I
to.
understand, I got a question.
I consider them our own fire company. I do not know why we're charging the impact fees. And so from the very start, I've only asked you to waive the $81,000 worth of impact fees.
right,
And I
time's
think
up.
that's totally appropriate.
Thank you.
Dale,
Thank you.
So that's all I had to say.
are you amenable to making them the Lago Vista City Fire Department? At some
I don't
point
know
in
how
time?
you go about that, Tim. I would do that if I had that kind of if you could maneuver that.
All right,
But
well, we're
Travis
not- we're not
County
dis-
is one
we're
of the
not-
ones
We're
that
not
passed-
discussing that tonight.
Yeah, I
He
know.
made a point, and he said it
Sure.
last year. I want to know.
Sure. Yeah, then you would have direct control over it.
All right,
Correct.
your time's up.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
All right, Glenn Chappie.
Hello, Council. Glenn Chappie, 330 Flightline Road. Here's, I want to get into a number. Let me tell you what, as a citizen of Lago Vista, both of these stations are in my city. They're both inside it. They're both going to service me. They're both going to come to my rescue. I'll tell you what, I'd give them all the money back. That'd be first. But if we've had some compromise and in a council's compromise, let me suggest something to you guys. Any fee, impact fee or other, don't charge them. It's a benefit to us. They moved one station, they expanded to another. I'm looking at having more fire trucks available to service us. God forbid I have a heart attack, a car wreck. You're darn right I want them there. And I'm okay with I don't care where we're going, where it's been, the tax money or where we're going, if it becomes a city fire department. We are where we are today. We got 2 stations under deal. We got two fees. I'd give them the fees back. Now, subject number 2, you guys are debating here, and I was here last meeting too when you talked about it. Talking about bringing that water line under, okay? It's nice the city is willing to help compromise and bring some of that cost there. If the city so moves, I'm fine with whatever my portion of the tax money is going to support that. When it gets to the meter, they can pay for it the rest of the way. Just like when I built a house, the city puts down the meter, I can pay for it the rest of the way. I kind of think that seems to be a reasonable approach. So I would take the numbers up. The impact fees are easy pickings. They can go away. You guys could debate whether you want to help it in other words, but I'd put the meter in the street where they need it and call it a day. That's me.
Thank you. I would like to make something really clear here. So had all of this been done before all these fees and permits and everything had to been pulled and everything, we could have addressed this much easier. The impact fees could have been addressed. We could have waived them. We could have done all this stuff that we wanted to do. However, it was not brought to us. They went to staff. Well, staff does not have the power to waive or grant anything. They had to charge them the fees. They have to. So this is an all after the fact thing. So it's not like council has set up here and said, we're going to charge you the impact fees. We are now considering whether we want to refund them some of the impact fees that they paid for because they didn't come to us prior to it. Is that clear to everybody? We didn't sit up here as council and say, we're going to charge you impact fees. So that's all that I have signed up. Did you sign up? No. Not at this time. I'll give you 1 minute, just because I have to allow everybody to speak, but.
Okay, my thing would be, okay, if it was $81,000 in impact fees, if that's in a different fund that the taxpayers haven't paid out, give them the 61,000 that they still owe, so they don't wash that clean. Give them back $20,000 and call it a day. Then we don't have any more tax money. Now they have their impact fees back to them and 21,000 to help get the sewer and the water where they need it. Okay, and so then we don't have any taxpayer money out. None, not one dime of taxpayer money out. Everybody up here is happy, but they get 21,000 back of impact fees that's sitting in some little fund for somebody to use on something else. That's for water anyway. Give that back to them. There you go.
All right, thank you. All right, so we got one number out of that for you, Don. 80-something thousand.
I think it was 80 plus 20.
81,840. It was 61 plus 20. The 61 that they owed plus 20. It was for the tap fees, 840. All right. So I'm looking for action at this point. We've beat this to death.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to waive all the impact fees and refund the fees they've paid so far.
Okay, so the diagram that's included in your package, page 90, shows a total of $124,868.07.
Correct.
That includes everything. So that includes their tap fees, their impact fees, everything. So basically what we would be doing is waiving the outstanding balance that they have on that plan, that 5-year payment plan, and then refunding them the money that they have already paid for a total of $124,868.07. Is that what you're saying?
I'd make a motion to forgive them that debt and refund all their impact fees.
Okay.
Is that clear enough?
Mayor, I'm going to state what he said. Waive their impact fees. That's $40,920.
For one or both?
He said waive the impact fees and then give them back the fees that they paid on the other site, right?
Correct.
So the fees on the other site that are paid, which look back, that's 53 plus 40, so that's going to be an estimated 94,000. It's a little different from that number. That's
Right.
all I'm asking.
So
is-
Mike, when I assume fees, okay, you're not talking about the replat, the utility deposits, you're just talking fees.
Those are fees too. They're providing us a service, we're
So
providing them a service back.
That's the way I understood his motion. That's why I said the entire 124,868, because I assumed he was including the deposits, the applications.
for both
Both fire stations.
Both
Both
stations.
fire stations.
They're
That's
both
the
in
way
our
I
city.
understood it. But that's just me.
That is correct, right, Don? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
What total have we come to? I don't care how you break it down.
124,868 is.
By the mayor's point, 124,868.07.
That'd be a good compromise for me. I'd rather forgive the whole thing because it seems like the right thing to do. We're getting a bargain, and as the former mayor pointed out, the impact on the system, they're not moving a bunch of people into the city. It seems really ridiculous to charge any of those fees. They're not a developer.
Yeah, and I wish they'd have come to us prior and we wouldn't charge them those fees.
Wishes were horses, we could all ride.
All right, so, and that was Dave's suggestion at the beginning was that 124.8, so.
So my
I
motion is
have a motion for that. Is that what we're talking about? The 124?
124.8.
868.07 as listed on this,
Call it refunds or
what do you,
forgiveness.
page 90? What do you call that? Exhibit A?
Yeah, that's on page 90.
All right, so I have I have a motion
All right, I'll second.
and I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay?
Nay.
What did,
I went aye.
Aye, okay. Motion carries 5-2. What do we want to skip to now? Oh, no, okay, we'll go to 3. Are we ready? You leaving us? Okay. Public hearing and possible action. Agenda item number 3, the Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to consider ordinance number 20-02-20-01, an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by changing the zoning district of the following property from the existing Marshall's Harbor Planned Development District, PDD, to single-family residential tall, R1T, lots 44 through 48, lot 50, lots 52 through 54, lot 57, lot 58, lots 60 through 66 of Marshall's Harbor subdivision, and the public hearing is currently open. We will start with the staff presentation. Is there anything new to this? Okay, does anybody need to hear anything from staff?
Yes, got a question or two.
All right.
Could we bring up onto the screen a copy of the subdivision with the lot numbers on it, or a copy of the zoning case with the lot numbers on it?
Page, would that be page? No?
There's a whole bunch of pages in there that have got them on it.
Let's go to like 36.
Computer won't load pages fast.
Well, and if we're having trouble getting it on the screen, Roy, just as long as you can, you got it. Okay.
Is that the one on the screen?
Nope.
No, 6.
It's outlined in red, right?
6.
No, that's not the lot numbers.
No.
Yeah, you know what I mean by the lot numbers, Roy.
It's, what you're looking for is 27.
27?
27.
Okay, so Roy, I got it. I think you need to come up because I got a question for you.
50, 52.
Or two. The lots that are adjacent to the Roberts home are 50 and 52, correct?
Correct. He owns lot 51.
Yeah, he's on 51.
Correct.
Okay. If we deleted those two lots, 50 and 52, to create a buffer, something you and I used to seeing.
Right.
For that existing house, and we delete 50 and 52, that means those two lots would be zoned for single-family use only.
Correct.
3,500 square foot minimum house size,
Right.
90-foot front setback, and I think it's 50 for.
50 on the sides, as I
50s.
recall, or somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
That's also in your packet, marked in red on the existing ordinance.
and we can amend the ordinance to delete those two lots. We can't add lots, but we can delete
You
lots.
can delete lots.
Thank you, sir.
And that would basically just leave them in the existing PDD, right? Yeah, okay.
The legal description in the ordinance, simply omitting those lots.
So they would just, they would just remain R1A?
No, it's PDD, but the
PDD.
PDD refers to R1A uses.
Right.
Of course, it's single family only.
Right.
And then the development standards defaults to the ordinance, but they have some specific ones, the 3,500 foot minimum,
Okay.
the height,
Gotcha.
35 feet,
Gotcha,
and the big setback,
gotcha.
25%. Well, we can't regulate that anymore, sir, sorry.
State won't let us. The state eliminated that.
We cannot. Our CCR's prevented though. Doesn't matter, we're
That-
not gonna put it in our law.
You can do anything you want to with your CCRs, but we as the city cannot enforce that at all.
Can't enforce it or
Required. Yeah.
All right, we're talking zoning here. Anybody else have questions for staff at all?
Nope.
All right, so I just want to remind you know, that this is a zoning change. It is nothing else, just a zoning change. We're not looking at site plans. We're not taking into consideration the personalities behind the developing and who's here and who's not here and who hates this and A2. We're not discussing any of that. This is purely a zoning application. We have had over 20% in the 200-foot adjoining properties oppose this, so that makes this a supermajority vote. In order for us to approve it, it must be passed by a 6-to-1 vote. When it comes to that time, I will be doing that by roll call. So we're looking at a change of zoning. Remind you, there has to be certain findings that must be made in order to make the zoning change. First, we have to make sure that there are significant and unanticipated changes that have occurred in the area of the affected parcel. With affected parcels, since the classification of the land use map was adopted, it is unlikely, number two, it is unlikely that the parcel in question will be developed or used for any use permitted under the current zoning classification indicated in the city's master plan. And three, the commission finds that the requested, or council finds that the requested zoning classification is the most appropriate classification for the affected area. If nobody has any more questions for the staff, I will let the applicant at this time address council.
Hello, good evening, gentlemen. I am going to bring Mr. Bill Gabler up here to just give a little overview of the zoning request, and I'll make a brief statement after that, and then we will close.
Okay, yeah. And hopefully this is not quite a repeat, because we'd just like to hear the new stuff,
Good evening.
or how it pertains to those findings.
Mayor, council members, and city manager. My name is Bill Gabler. I'm with Land Dev Consulting. We helped the applicant put together the package in accordance with the city's standards. Just wanted to touch on a couple things about the R1t Zoning Designation. It has a 50% max impervious cover, 1,800 square foot minimum living space, and 35-foot max building height. There's a important aspect to this zoning in creating latitude. For myself, I'm a civil designer that wants to be a land planner. Having the opportunity to cluster houses and put small units where it's appropriate for the topography and the infrastructure supporting the subdivision is very useful. But I guess what I want to say is there's going to be a lot of market forces that drive the ultimate size of these lots with respect to how many of them are 70s versus 50s. And one of my roles, our firm's roles, will be to help make the best choices on how to develop the site, to protect the natural setting, as well as provide the developer with a product that is marketable with respect to the current market. There is additional planning in the works, but the important aspect of this zoning application being approved is it gives us that opportunity to make those decisions about how to guide the infrastructure and produce the product intended. The important thing to remember is that as it's just a zoning change, any further plats or subdivision construction plans will all come before staff, P&Z, and council for approval. We look forward to being able to continue to support this development in this community.
Thank you.
So gentlemen, I don't intend on rehashing my entire presentation since I know that most of you were here for the February 6th one. But for the benefit of Mr. Barthlow and Mr. Robbins, who were not able to be here in person, I did just want to touch on a couple of the high points. So I'll flip through. Yep. Why not?
All right.
For what it's worth, I saw it. No, I saw it. So,
Oh. Thought I had. There we go. So as Mr. Gabler mentioned, there's just basically two slides I'm going to focus on here because I think they're pretty important. The reason we're asking for this zoning is because we don't believe that Waterlight's current product mix is something that meets current market demand. When you look at other very successful communities around here, like Treviso, the Hollows, Lakeside, we're very far off when you look at how much of the land is dedicated to large estate homes. We have 18 lots that are under proposed amendment for the R1t versus 7 home sites at Treviso and none that even approach that size in the Hollows and Lakeside. This is not to say that we are in any way against having large estate lots. In fact, we do want to incorporate those as they are appropriate, and the peninsula would be obviously one of the most appropriate places for that. But we do want to give Mr. Gabler the latitude to be able to make the suggestions in order to make this a successful project. And, you know, we're not advocating for small lots in any case we actually want to have larger lots, but we need to have the latitude to be able to make those changes and put those smaller lots where they are appropriate and maintain the large ones where they are appropriate as well. And then finally, just want to go over the replat standard. 75% of the entire community needs to approve an amendment, and 75% of the property owners within the replat zone must vote in favor. We've met that standard for this rezoning proposition. We've met that standard for the Hilltop rezoning proposition we will be discussing later. And most of all, 97% of the property owners support this. That's 154 people who want to see this happen. There are 5 people who don't. In fact, there's not actually 5 people. There's 3 people. There's 5 properties. So one other thing that I did just want to touch on with the council, I'm pleased to be able to share with you today that Mr. Atlas has signed an agreement to be able to sell his properties and this development project to a company that will be led by me. I'm very honored and excited to have the opportunity to bring this development to the next phase of its life. And we've secured a capital commitment to complete this acquisition. And obviously this hearing today is a key factor in being able to successfully complete and close that funding. So in conclusion, what we're asking here is for zoning that is completely within current city ordinances. We're not asking for any variances. We're simply asking to take these properties out of the PDD and put them into something that already exists, no variances. We've addressed the council's prior concerns about gaining control of sufficient amounts of the subdivision by buying the additional lots in December. I think that was a concern of yours, Mr. Collin. We have bought those lots. We've come back with the appropriate requirements for 75%, and we're here asking for you today to approve this. We're doing something good for the community. We're finishing out the old building. We're going to build out the park and trail system, which is going to be open to the public. Those are going to be some of our very first moves for some of the first money we spend. We're going to be continuing to bring money into this tax base. I think that the conversation that took place here with the fire chief is something that's very relevant here, and that is something that this project will definitely help with the city. And, you know, as Mr. Gabler said, this is simply a rezoning step. I just ask you, this is very quickly becoming my development and something that's very important to me, and I would just ask you to give me the opportunity to succeed. And everyone here, all of you and all of the residents here will have a chance to speak when we come back for plat approval and voice all of their concerns. So I'm asking you guys to please approve this today. Help us build an asset for this community, something that will be strong and represent the city of Lago Vista well. And, the property owners want this. You've seen the graphics. I think there's tons of people in the community that also support this as well. So it's something that we're really excited about, and we hope that you'll vote to support us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, council, I'm going to go back to these findings that we're tasked with considering. And on number one, committee, city council, I keep forgetting we're council, and reading commission. The council finds significant and unanticipated changes have occurred in the area of the affected parcel since classification of the land use. In my mind, that land has been sitting there
For a long time.
forever, undeveloped, except for one or two houses in that area. It is my opinion that significant and I don't know if it's unanticipated, but significant changes have occurred because it has been basically abandoned. And that leads into number two, unlikely that the parcel will be developed or used for any use permitted under the zoning classification indicated. He's obviously, because it's been PDD and it hasn't been developed, that I don't see at this point why it's likely to be developed at its current thing. What I have a problem with is number three. Committee finds that the requested zoning class is the most appropriate classification. Who defines the most appropriate classification? Is that an opinion that we come to together? Does staff present recommendations based on our land use map and current zoning available? I mean, how do we decide what is most appropriate? Is that strictly our opinion?
Mr. Mayor, it is certainly something that you as the council members need to find based on what you have in your land use map, what you foresee is the appropriate use for this particular property, given its location, given the potential uses of the property in this context.
Mr. Mayor, I have a problem with the description of the land being abandoned. It's still paying taxes on it. There's still people voting on it. It's still part of an HOA. I don't see how it can be considered abandoned.
Well, let me see if I can clarify. The land has not been abandoned. The development, the PDD has been abandoned.
Do we know that?
That's just my opinion, but
I don't think so. The people built on it,
There's only two people that have built on it.
so it's not abandoned.
I never said it was.
That's not this property.
Okay.
Need to be clear that we're talking about the property that is on the other side of Austin Boulevard. The homes that have been built in Monteshino, that's the whole other side. That is not the property we're discussing tonight.
right. But there have been two homes built in that area, and that is Mr. Atlas's home and Mr. Roberts' home. So there have been homes built.
Built it, yes.
So, finding number one, that's just something that you've got to decide as you as a council member, whether this request meets finding number one. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Are we ready for the fun? I have 4,382 people signed up to speak. Twice.
Give them a minute.
I'm going to ask y'all to keep it brief. No repeats from 2 weeks ago. It's all got to be new information. And if you don't have anything new and you want to pass when I call your name, I'll be happy to accept that pass along. It is already after 8 o'clock. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Molly Mitchell.
Y'all have heard from me a bit, so I am going to be super brief, under the 3 minutes. Let me hit the high points. As you know, this is an HOA where all of the members in 2007 got together and made a deal. The council shouldn't get in the way of that deal. There are issues now within the HOA. There are problems with the HOA, but Mr. Atlas in 2007 got just what he bargained for, which was density in Via Montecino, and he's done nothing with it. Again, the council shouldn't get in the way of this particular deal. What he's asking for is contrary to that, and that is a matter within the HOA, a settlement in the HOA, and we're simply asking the council to stand back and not help him, not save him, not give him something additional that was not bargained for. The community support, all the thumbs up we just saw, I provided the council in a notebook with how they counted those. And Mr. Atlas, in the notebook, tab 1 from last time, he said, hey, I've talked to all of you, and based on that, I've said you all support me. There are 2 emails at the back of people that Mr. Roberts asked and said, are you in support of this? Both of them sent emails saying, no, I'm not supporting that. So I would ask you just to take with a grain of salt the support level and to consider there's certainly within the community support on both sides. You got, I believe, 170 signatures from Mr. Roberts, 185, 95. So there is significant support for his position and the position I'm forwarding for all of these neighbors that says, do not make this change. In terms of the Lago Vista, City Council's rules, the mayor just read out what the requirements are. I am urging this council to look really hard at those. This is your safe harbor. It's doing the right thing, but it is also a safe harbor thing so that this doesn't spin off into endless conflict and litigation. Those rules are there for a reason. They're very specific and narrow. I would ask the council to read them closely and apply them. This is a safe harbor. The Texas Supreme Court says to councils, you follow your rules strictly, particularly if you're supporting lower density, and we will support and protect you. And I would just urge the council to, again, not only do the right thing, but carefully follow those, carefully and strictly construe them without regard for whether you like a deal or don't like a deal. And again, on this, what really the deal is here is, do we let Mr. Roberts and the other people who bought into this subdivision and own lots there, do we let them take the risk of whether this whole great thing's going to work? Or do we let these folks go and do in Via Montecino, let them try it there? They've got everything they need in terms of amenities and zoning. Let them try their deal. We heard from Mr. Atlas in Exhibit Tab A. He could sell either that part or he could sell the whole thing. Let him sell that. Let him try it. If it works, then we're back here having a different conversation. Thank
All
you.
right. Time's up. Thank you. Stephen Surek.
Here I am again.
It's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. Good to see you too. My name is Stephen Surek. I live at 20900 Wishbone Drive. And I just can't understand how this nonsense comes every 2 years, and we've got a whole bunch of developers run in here, try to victimize Lago Vista. They don't care about Lago Vista, by the way. They may swear they do, but they don't. They'll take their money and they'll run and go home somewhere in one of those, maybe in Treviso, that they showed you here, because this is not going to be Treviso they're talking about. We have a problem with streets. We're going to have a problem with lights. This is all stuff you guys are going to have to take care of. You're going to have the problem with traffic. We're going to have well, I wrote notes down here. Police, we're going to need more police. Danny knows it, right? Last time, you know how many, that we would have had more police. And this is the thing they're asking us to do. What are we gonna get out of it? After you finish doing the maintenance, you're not gonna get anything. You're gonna be asking for more taxes. I mean, it happens constantly. When are we gonna just throw our hands up and say, leave us alone? Go and find some other sucker to victimize. Because you know they don't care. You know very well. And if you think they do, you're just foolish. And that's about all I have to say. We ought to quit doing this every 2 or 3 years. What do you guys think? You think we ought to quit doing it?
We'll let you know at the end of the agenda.
I
item.
appreciate it.
I've still got 4,000 and something people to go through here.
All right, well, I don't want to take up too much time.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's all I have to say. I have 45 seconds.
Well, I have you down here for agenda item number 4 as well, so if you really want to, you can speak again here in a little while. Let's see. And I'm sorry, I can never pronounce your nice name correctly. Deanne Jean-Jopin?
You're really, really close. I'm very impressed, except for the Diane.
So I get the easy.
You got the last name right.
That's the easy part.
Did you want to speak, or? Okay.
Out of my envelope here.
It's probably Diane.
Diane Chang Pen, and I live at 18315 Lakeshore. I don't know that I will be able to say much different than what has already been said, but I haven't spoken before. We bought the property with the anticipation that of the large estate lots on the lake, quiet. It was not intended to be a hubbub hustle with the density of what's been proposed. I don't really, number one, understand why it's still coming forward, because I know, speaking for myself, I don't see it as largely different from what you already disapproved. Because I've seen pieces of this ever since we bought the property in 2012. And it was larger, and then it gets smaller. It was non-detailed, asked for detailed, so it gets smaller and more detailed. And, but all of it is unattractive and not amenable for our community, and what I see as a significant part of our community going along with it and believing that it will really come to fruition with the costs that we've seen associated with it. So I just very, very strongly don't trust the situation. If it were to even bear partial fruit, it would be an incredible burden and make our community, for the city and for us, more unattractive. The area has, the premise that they're saying that has been posited, that it is, hasn't been able to be marketed the way it is with large lots, you can't just take that statement at face value. We presented professionals in the field that said it's not true. Because you say it doesn't make it true. Large lots are being sold. And it's also been burdened by all the problems associated, not of our making, but of individual interest making, with the lawsuits and the burden of disagreements. And I've heard the term snake bit by professionals, neighborhood, non-professionals in accompanying areas. So, and those are things that there's not a direct cause and effect and fix. And we do not see the fix as being a community proposal with these little slivers of property and potential homes and all the associated tangents that go right along with it. Some good, some not so good. But it's not, it is uncontrolled. Since when do we have confidence that a developer who wants to have control of what is appropriate to make decisions necessarily for what is appropriate for the whole as opposed to what is appropriate for their personal needs.
All right, time's up. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Sandra Allen.
I'm Sandra Allen. I'm speaking on behalf of my parents, Harvey and Evelyn Gann. They live at 18202 Travis Drive, and they have lived on the Marshall Ranch since 1976. They're in their 90s. They've seen lots of change around here, some good, some not so good. I'm in particular aware of the long history Mr. Atlas has with the city of Lago Vista and its residents. Over the years, he's promoted plans that have failed for various reasons. Currently, he is proposing another lucrative plan for himself and his investors to rezone an area of the ranch that would increase the population to the extent that it would potentially create an extremely dangerous situation equal to that of the tragic loss of life in the Paradise, California wildfire. This hazard has been documented by the fire officials here, has been brought to your attention. Should these warnings be ignored and the plan approved, then the responsibility for this potential disaster will lie fully with those who have condoned it. No amount of tree trimming or brush removal will remediate the fact that there is only one way out of the area and that it will become a parking lot and a potential death trap should a fire get out of control. We know that Atlas and his investors are trying to make as much profit as possible, but these profits can quickly disappear in the face of lawsuits from victims of wildfire. Please consider the safety of your citizens. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there. We are not going to be clapping after every single speaker. We'll have a great party for one side or the other after the decision is made. Don Morton.
Don Morton. I live in Lakeshore Ranch. I've been there since 1976. And the main thing I want to point out is what has been pointed out by several people, including the fire marshal. The access in and out is one way. And I don't have to say any more. I'm sure you've heard it all, but I have other concerns, but that's my biggest concern, that it could become an awful situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren, is it Ginther?
Mayor, City Council, my name is Darren Ginther. I own property on Ranger Trail. Until recently, I was a decade-long member of this community. I'm coming back one of these days. City Council, thank you for your service. You guys do a job for amazing zero compensation where half your constituents are mad at you all the time. I'm not so sure that I'd sign up for that myself. Mr. Tidwell, thank you for applying some structure to this meeting. So I want to just address your zoning requirements. I believe that first zoning requirement was that, and maybe you could repeat it to me, that there haven't been significant changes to the original zoning, platting and zoning. Is that correct?
That is something that we have to consider. That is one of the findings that we have to consider when we're looking at changing the zoning.
Sure.
And that one is whether or not there's significant and unanticipated changes have occurred.
So I disagree with you a little bit, and I tend to side with Mr. Collins. That property is largely, continues to be as it was when it was originally platted. There's infrastructure there. People haven't come in and bought it yet, but it hasn't changed. So I see that differently than you. So that's my reply to number one. The second issue is that it's unlikely to be reused as zoned. And Mr. Bartholow or Glenn Chappie, maybe you can take these guys for an airplane ride, and it's coming. There are large acre lots out here. They're gonna sell. I haven't seen many of those lots listed, but I just bought a multi-acre lot in Valente, and you can't keep them on the market. I think it would be a valid argument to say that it's not going to be used as zoned when those guys are listed, and they've been sitting there for years in open MLS, and I'm not seeing that. The third was what? Appropriate classification?
Yes, the zoning, the R1T.
Is appropriate for that use case where people have already built and developed houses. It's sort of disingenuous to switch that zoning out when you've got people here that bought specifically for that reason. I saw that the developer brought a number of 154 yay votes. Boy, I would sure like to see them here, but I don't. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Christy Deverix.
Hello, hi.
Howdy.
I haven't been here before and I've never done this, so hopefully I do it right. Good evening, I'm Christy Deverix. I live at 19001 Veranda Walk. I'm in Montecino, the old Montesino, whatever. Not Italian. The current Water Lights neighborhood. We've lived here since April 2018. I have to formally introduce I just wanted to formally introduce myself and give you a face with the name. So whatever you decide today, it affects me and my husband. So I implore you to approve, allow progress in Lago Vista in general, and specifically, sorry, in my interest, the Water Lights neighborhood by allowing the rezoning that is holding up progress. Please don't allow the greed of one resident of Marshall Harbor to halt the development of Lago Vista economy in the whole. What I'm hearing is without this change, there's no progress. Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna pass out. No progress without rezoning, then what's the question? And that's it. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you.
We got EMTs out there somewhere.
Are they still, no, they're gone. We got Danny. He's getting the end.
All fire truck.
David Villarreal.
I live in 19129 Camelot Woods Cove. Came originally and 3 years ago to just visit Point Venture. Fell in love with the place. 2 months later, we're buying a house. I bought one of the houses up front that nobody wants to consider abandoned, and I bought the house on top of the hill. I'm glad I did, but I'm tired. I mean, I come back and forth, originally from San Antonio, moved here officially 2 years in October. I'm sick and tired of having to go get my mail down the road. I was told, put a mailbox, we'll have mail service for you. No, can't do that. So I was the only idiot with a mailbox there and still got to going on my third year to go get my mail. That's ridiculous. I bought a home here with integrity. I feel, why hold back a city? My big buddy Red McCombs out of San Antonio bought 400 acres in the Hollows. What's stopping that one? Growth of the city, everybody wants to say, well, somebody said a while ago, got on an airplane. I just want our amenities for my home. Looks crappy to see abandoned building there. Why just let it sit there? You're getting our taxes. I'm paying taxes on that home. My family enjoys coming to San Antonio up here to enjoy the lake. I ain't even got boat access. I got to go pay for boat access. I want amenities in my community. And I hear this has been going on for 19 years. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let's stick a fork in this and get it over and done with. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And if I could change that postal delivery for you, I would.
Come on, I understand. It's City of Leander. Come on, we're rolling.
All right.
Get on Postmaster.
Cody Harden.
Hello, council. Thank you guys for everything y'all have done. I'm going to try my best and do what I normally do, which is just shoot from the hip. I'm Cody Harden. I live at 18205 Ridge Road, which is within Lakeshore Ranch. A big concern of mine is all these properties sit right now, even when I bought into it, is safety for my family. I am about as far back as you get. I got 2 little boys. I got a wife. They are my world. I would never wish upon a fire for anyone. But if something happens and all this rezoning, I've yet to hear ingress and egress really talked about. I don't know that that road that was built in the 60s, 70s, Austin Boulevard, is set up to accommodate an exit for something that is an emergency. And man, if I lost a family member, which I've thought about, and it deeply saddens me, if I lost a family member, I'm not the one to talk about lawsuit, but it would be the first thing on my mind, is talk about asset to the community. I mean, it sounds like a developer has the zoning to try what they want to do. And I mean, you got to list the lots for sale to make it work. I don't even see them trying to do anything. But my main concern really is the safety of us getting in and out. If I could just see myself getting stranded back there with my family and my boys and spending my last seconds with them off this decision that's being made. You put all those homes right there and they max it out, high density that they want to do, go as tall as they want to go. Those people are going to get out before I get out. I don't get that. Like, that's not what I bought into. I bought into these big lots. I thought it would be safe to get in and out. I don't feel like it'd be very safe. I mean, I don't see any studies on even the impacts of potential traffic. I've never seen it. I know it's in a federal entity, so you don't have to have an environmental impact study, but I feel like if one was done, there would be some serious signs of why this is a no. I mean, I'm not going to quote a fire chief or whoever said what words, but I've heard that they've proposed some opposition as well to this in regards to safety. So to take heed from someone that is warning you, who is very familiar with what could happen, and then go against what they say, that's not asset, that's a liability, a big old liability. And I don't want to make it one. And it's not safe for the people. I'm not fighting the changing of the area. I knew when we bought it, I've been here 3 years, that this place is going to get developed. I kind of want to see that. I want to see it get developed in the right way that is safe for the community and is safe for our family with us that are inside there. And that's really my biggest main concern. I don't see anything that proves to me that it is safe. All I see is just a bait and switch to get a new developer in and to try something different. They got the zoning, try it where it's working. And if it works, man, then like the lady said before, we'll have a different conversation at another time. But please consider the safety of our family, and please consider some of the warnings that you've already had. It would be negligent to not consider those things. That's all I had, guys. I really appreciate what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll see. I'll keep that in mind.
All right.
All right, David Cheney. No David Cheney?
How's it spelled? Cheney?
Chaney.
He didn't mean to sign up for you, sir.
Oh, okay. Good, I'll send him a sec. We'll put him down here. No disrespect, I just don't have enough room. Michael Smith.
Gentlemen, my name is Michael Smith. I live at 4117 Lowman's Ford Road. Been living there since 2007. And unfortunately, I've heard this song before. I stood in this same place 13 years ago in front of a council that's not quite as good looking and smart as you guys. And those guys fell for it. And they took 26 lots. My house is on 7 acres. I bought a house on 7 acres next to a lot with 60 acres and one house, adjacent to 2 lots, a 6-acre and a 14-acre lot. I wanted a big lot. Contrary to what Ms. Williams says, there is demand for large lots out here. There is demand for it, but they got to be available, as someone else pointed out. If you want to buy a small lot, then you go across Lowman's. But we didn't want to buy a small lot. We wanted to buy a big lot. That's what we bought. I walked into this office to make sure that I wasn't going to move in next to a Costco, right? So 4 months later, this PDD gets approved, and they take 26 lots and cut them up into 260. 13 years later, there's 3 houses up there. And one of the guys is pretty upset because he can't get his mail. I don't understand why we think that this movie is going to end any differently than it has for the last 13 years. I don't know why we're even talking about this. It's ridiculous to say that there's no demand for these lots. The lots haven't been for sale. I know that for a fact because I offered to buy the 2 adjacent lots to my lot from Mr. Atlas in 2007, and he told me they weren't for sale. I told him I'd give him fair market value. He told me they weren't for sale. What you have here is a greedy developer. You have someone who's trying to exploit this city You have someone who's trying to make money. He's brought in a cohort now who wants to make money.
All
I
right,
don't-
sounds like we're getting into personalities and stuff.
I apologize. I
and
apologize.
not
I
zoning.
apologize. Okay. I guess I just want to urge you guys to let's look at the history, right? We do need to look at the individual because it's the same individual, and there is a history here. There's no reason to think that this is going to end any differently. If he wants to develop the lots, what he's already got approved, let's develop what he's already got approved.
Council,
I don't
you
see any
cannot look
reason.
at history. We're looking at a zoning application.
Understood. The last thing I want to address is there was a comment about how many people are approving this or how many people are for it. I turned in to Mr. Roberts, I turned in a petition. I spent 20 minutes today before school pickup, and I asked 21 individuals. I showed them what was approved, and I showed them what's proposed, and I got 19 signatures, save one city manager's wife who said she couldn't weigh in on it. Didn't realize who I was asking until after I asked her. But 19 out of 21 individuals were a vehement and automatic no. It took me 15 minutes to get that data. So I would question the validity of the data that was presented, about 97% support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm impressed because she always has an opinion with me, so I don't know how he didn't get an opinion.
To be fair, she said I probably shouldn't weigh in.
Wish I could get one of those.
It's not gonna happen.
It's Bryce Reed or Bruce Reed? Bruce. Bruce Reed.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, a lot of my neighbors. Appreciate the time. Understand this is a zoning and not a platting. I understand the difference. This is my 5th or 6th attendance at either a zoning meeting or a city council meeting. I also realize that you guys have to approve or disapprove what's put before you. You're not getting to negotiate it or anything. So you're just approving it. And I also know that the zoning committee's meeting vote was 4-3. It would be better if it was 7-0, right? Where everyone was unanimous and this was a win-win situation. Obviously at 4-3, that's probably reflective of what you see in the room of people who are on both sides of the issue. And this isn't necessary. Some people are going to go home tonight looking at this as a loss, whichever way it goes. Okay. That's not to say we can't come back here. And that's what I recommend that we do. So I want to pass this out for the city council. Got a few extra to pass around. Why don't you pass it around so that I can talk about it. So you'll recognize, I think there's one for everyone.
Please provide one to the city secretary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
That's fine. Can we give So I know we've all got fatigue, right? This is kind of, it's been going on a long time. I actually want the property to be developed. I've been over to Brian's house and I've listened to him talk about his dreams for this area. And I'd like to see his investors and him successfully sell the property and see it developed. I live within the 200 feet of the property, so on Austin Boulevard. What I passed out to you, you'll recognize this first one. It's in the packet, right? It's just a rendering, and I know we're not doing a platting, we're doing a zoning, but platting and zoning is how those are the two tools that the city council and the city has to affect density. So the second page is not in your packet, but it's one that Brian and team have been passing around. It shows both Montechino PDD, which has been highly negotiated and has multiple size lots, and those things were put in there with with restrictions, the same kind of restrictions that they're asking for with, distance between lots, setback rules and all those type things. And that was highly negotiated. And you'll notice across Austin Boulevard, the lots are the bigger ones. Those are restricted to being at least 20,000 square feet. So basically just a little less than half an acre.
All right, time's
and then
up.
he's got,
Thank you.
No, because I'm going to go ahead and you can disregard all of this because this, again, is just zoning. This is not site planning.
yeah, but it's a reflective of the density that he could put in here because of that. and
This
it's
is not,
different.
this is not in your packet. I mean, you can look at it, but can't consider it as not in your packet.
Thanks.
Well, maybe it should be in the packet. That's the point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What? Next time, get it in on time. Thank you. Anastasia Reed.
Good evening. My name is Anastasia Dallas Reed, and I live with my husband Bruce at 18306 Austin Boulevard. Thank you in advance for your time and attention, and pardon me for reading. I don't have my husband's public speaking skills. I help people realize their dreams. I'm an interior designer who plans and then remodels homes. I love helping make people's dreams come true. It's quite uncomfortable to not agree with the rezoning dream set before you this evening, but I must. My family and I moved to Lago nearly a year and a half ago. We are a family of 4 with our 2 kiddos at Lago Vista High School. Naturally, when we looked into moving to Lago, we found and bought a fixer-upper. To better understand our potential property value and protect our investment, prior to our non-realized remodeling dreams, I contacted and spoke with Mr. Ray and Mr. Tidwell. The subject of the conversations with these gentlemen was to hear of Lago Vista's plan to grow as a boutique community. I was told by both that high-density development like Lakeway was not in the cards for Lago Vista. Gentlemen, the rezoning plan that is being put before you this evening is the first step to accommodate high-density development. The rezoning plan you are being asked to pass this evening could increase the density of this land by about 10 times. You are being asked to pass a rezone that would allow up to 5 houses per acre. I'm not quite sure why or how Mr. Atlas has not been able to realize his plans of developing the land that was rezoned once already, as per his request back in 2007. I cannot support his new dream of rezoning this land again, as it sits so close to our precious lake and great high school. Please ask yourselves the following question. Why should one small contingent's dream of rezoning again to even smaller lots than in 2007 supersede Lago's plans to not become another Lakeway? I'm a designer, an architect by education. I'm all for developing Lago Vista and excited about what I can envision it becoming. Very respectful of the nature around us and property values high enough to help support this city with a solid tax base. Let's be brilliant about how we develop the land for our children, grandchildren, and future generations of Lago Vista and Central Texas. The North Shore of Lake Travis is currently a dreamy place to live. Let's keep it that way. Let's develop it as such. Please do not pass the rezoning request of this land. And one more thing that just exposed itself this evening that I wasn't planning on talking about, but I have to bring this up. Ms. Williams' version of developing land consists of chopping down trees first and surveying after. I watched in disbelief as her bulldozers tractor trailer drove down my private drive,
We're out of time.
carve up my land, kill
You're
one
out
of
of
my
time.
mature mesquite trees, and then bulldoze all of the trees on her newly purchased
Danny?
property, all without a permit. When I questioned the bulldozer driver, he said it was she
You're
was
no longer
saving
recognized.
money.
Gerald Deuspot.
I too actually live right next door to Mrs. Williams' tearing up of the land, literally tearing down every tree. But I'm Gerald Doshbach, 18306 Austin Boulevard. I hear all these stories about how beautiful all these parks and these sidewalks and all this stuff. I do encourage you to come see what Mrs. Williams has done next door to me that I've had to look at for the past year, maybe a little longer than that.
Okay, what is it? What does this have? What does this have to do with the application?
It has to do with if they're wanting to beautify the area, take a look at what they've done so far, regardless. There's so much to talk about in this whole scenario. don't even know where to begin. I can say that I've never met anyone or talked to someone that has actually been for this, that actually has what I'll call skin in the game. We all have skin in the game. There's a lot of people over here that want to make a lot of skin, but we actually live there, we pay taxes, we own the property, and therefore, I think our voice should be heard. I'm sorry. I've got so many different things here to go over. So I bought this property 3 years ago. I have been wanting to knock the house down for 3 years. I've been wanting to build my home to retire in. Every time that I think about doing it, this comes up. This type of situation comes up. I hear about condos going in next door. I hear about, you know, the drawing down of the lots to get a higher density. And the only reason these setbacks are being changed is for a higher density. There's no other reason for it. So therefore, I got to know a few custom home builders. You know, because like I said, I like to tear the house down and put up a very nice house. But, you know, when we're talking about this hotel, there were some lots available. And I asked several of the custom home builders if they'd be interested in those lots. And they said, no, it's too toxic of an area for us right now. So they weren't interested. So there's a stigma out here that we need to get rid of. And I think what was said here earlier tonight was, let's let him, you know, do what he wants to do in there. He's already got approved to do it. If he can do it there, then, hey, we'll let him do what he wants to do in the other areas, but I don't want to see the high density. I know that every one of you, when y'all drive up 1431 and y'all see Treviso and y'all see all those houses, there's no one in here that's going to tell me differently. When you see that, those roofs on top of roofs, it's not what I want out here. It's not what anybody in here wants out here. So if you want to look like Treviso and nothing but rooftops and no trees, that's what you're going to get.
Thank you. Heidi Swan.
I'm going to skip. I think everyone said pretty much everything.
Greg Swan.
Greg Swan, 18306 Austin Boulevard. We've had 6 acres in Cottonwood Hollow since 1979. The chief and several other people have brought up the concerns with the access and fire, and I just want to say that in 1979, we had our fire. Typically, all the people in that area that have been there for 20 years have had at least one major fire. And I don't think anybody can realize how you feel when there's a 40-foot wall of fire coming around you. This terrain is unusual. The cedar trees are explosive, and it is one of my primary concerns as well as everybody else's here also. So please, with one way in and one way out for all these people, it's a major concern, and it's frightening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over 300 acres, so over 75 firefighters. It was a nightmare. Okay.
All right, thank you. I have Tyson Swan also. Does Tyson have it? All right. Glenn Chappie.
Glenn Chappie, 330 Flatline Road. You know, both sides have some emotional opinions on this thing. You know, in one way in, one way out, you know, all that stuff. God, pray for PV, man. I mean, it's one way out Lowman's Ford for everybody down there. You know, it is what it is, but the facts are Lago Vista is going to change. It's a rezoning issue. There's a lot of emotion, but it's a rezoning issue. It's R1t is residential. It's residential to residential. It seems to address number 3. There's, you know, the uses seem compatible if a house is a house, but we argue about how big the yard might be. But a house is a house, and a person's a person, and a family's a family. So I'm okay with that. And I see it as a private property rights issue, quite frankly, and that's why I'm speaking about it. I think, if the community support in the majority has been met, then I think it's the response to the council to respond appropriately. Thanks.
Thank you. Angela Smith.
I'm waiting. It's already been said.
Okay.
Oh, I'm giving, can I give it to him?
To who? Oh.
Yeah.
Ray Jones.
Good evening. My name is Ray Jones. I live at 17903 Austin Boulevard. I've been living in this area for some 23 years. I haven't been involved in the details of all these sagas that have occurred over the years, so I don't have any real prejudices. I think I can look at it from the big picture, and I really think that's what you guys need to do. You need to step back and not worry so much about some of the details, although some of the details are quite important. You need to step back and look at the big picture, because while there are a lot of complications with some of the details, I think the big picture is pretty simple, and it's already been stated by some others. I'll just take my turn and restate it in a sense. Several years ago, a group of people agreed on this development plan. And as far as I can tell, it was a good plan. It was well thought out, forward-looking, progressive, and fit everybody. It was kind of a win-win for the city and a win-win for the community as well. It was a win-win for the city because it provided a structured, natural development of the city. It was a win-win for the community because it provided the ability for them to bring their families into this area and to live in an area that would be free of all the hustle and bustle that we see in other areas, and it wouldn't be so crowded. And so now we find that here's a proposal that comes in and wants to undo all that. It wants this council to, in effect, renege on the presumed contract with the community to develop it in accordance with that original plan. They want the council to renege and to have bad faith with the community. And friends, I just don't see that that's right. I don't see that that's right. I'm convinced the property could be developed. Maybe it can't be developed by Mr. Atlas, but it can be developed by somebody, and it can be developed under the plan that has already been put in place a dozen years ago or more. We ought to see if it can be developed. A number of people have spoken tonight and have concluded that that could be the case. So I don't see that we need to do a bait and switch. It's not fair to the people that have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase their property and come into this area, including myself, although it was a long time ago. You ought to consider that the city needs to keep faith with those people and with the plan that was there a dozen years ago, and not even for 1 second consider undoing that. That's not fair, not right, and you ought to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Mr. Jones. Paul Roberts.
Having an internal debate moment here. If I want to get up there or not.
Well, we've heard from quite a few people. Do you have anything new to add to the conversation?
I have things that segue into being relevant to the totality of the matter. In 2003, Brian bought a bunch of lots. By 2007, he still couldn't flip them, so he sued for the ability to have a hotel, condos, dry stack, marina, most of all, density. He got everything he wanted, especially the ability to convert 26 contiguous 3 to 6 acre lots into what is today Montecino. He later got approval to change the 60 condos in Montecino to 60 garden homes. He also got rezoning for a retirement village. 6 years later, he still couldn't wholesale his property with the higher density he achieved on paper in 2007. So he entered into a new development agreement with the city in 2013, and he built 3 homes in Montechino, 2 of which went into foreclosure. Since then, 7 years later, he hasn't listed a single lot for sale in Montechino. I'm going to repeat that. Since then, 7 years later, he hasn't listed a single lot for sale in Montechino. He's only tried to wholesale that section, and since 2015, after those 2 homes went into foreclosure, he still hasn't listed any of his other lots for sale, not just in Montechino, but on Lago Drive, Shoreline Ranch, Austin Boulevard.
Paul.
Instead,
Sounds like we're getting a history lesson.
this is extremely relevant, and with all due respect, sir, I'm allotted a certain amount of time. I would like to use that at my liberty, if you please.
If you address what we're.
I have more to
the
lose than
application,
anyone else in this room.
But we don't
Now he-
necessarily need to hear the history all over again. We've heard it
Yours is
several
your-
times.
Now he comes before you today claiming that he again needs the ability to convert the remaining 3 to 6 acre lots into .20 acre lots to match what he contends are current market conditions. Yet he hasn't sold any of these same high-density lots to anyone since the foreclosures, nor has he listed individual lots for sale. Though this is zoning, if you approve their setbacks, this area turns into an area platted for .2 acre lots. That is the end of the estate lot sales, so please understand the importance of your decision today. For 13 years, he's effectively done nothing, even though he's had all the zoning in place and he claims is a recipe for success, the same recipe he's prescribing today. Zoning, which includes 2 amenity centers, a hotel site on the hilltop, a condo site on Lot 49, and an area for assisted living that he calls a retirement village, formerly referred to as Plum Creek. Take heed, though, these applications today aren't the end of his density efforts to create value on paper to wholesale. One of those most recent maps depicts condos on lots 33 and 34, which would be another violation of the 2007 settlement agreement, which prohibits a community in that area. I have talked to hundreds of my neighbors, and we do not want this project.
All right, time's up.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Clara Smith.
Hi, I go by Suzanne. I've never spoken before council before, but I just want to be one more person. I agree with what most of the people have said.
We need your name and address, please.
I live at 4117 Lowman's Ford Road. My house is right next to Montechino.
Thank you.
And I built it in 2011 when I retired, thinking that I would come to nice peace and quiet. My son, Michael Smith, who you heard from, told me that I needed to build a home on his property so that I could be safe when I got old. And I envisioned, peacefulness. I just want you to know that I am against the rezoning. I'm against the high density. That retirement home that they talk about, that would be like out my porch. I don't want to see that. I mean, at first it was just 2 homes all those years ago on 6 acres and 14. Then it was going to be 26 homes, now a retirement center. Who knows what's going to be there? I just know that I am not in favor of it, and I just want you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Roberts.
I'm Deanna Roberts. I live at 5312 Lago Drive. At the last meeting, you seemed to be impressed by the number of letters and people in support of the zoning changes. There are some things you need to consider before basing your vote on that. First, the slide presentation showed that over 75% of the property owners in Montechino and Marshall's Harbor were in support of the rezoning. The fact is that a majority of the lots are owned by Mr. Atlas or are under contract to be purchased by him. The sellers under contract are prohibited from interfering with rezoning and replatting. They're not allowed to oppose per their contract. Further, Mr. and Mrs. Shields retracted their support before the last meeting. Mr. Scholl and Willa confirmed that contrary to Brian's statements, they do not support these applications. In a nutshell, the slide showing 75% in favor is wholly inaccurate or, at the least, questionable, and as such should not be relied upon for passing a zoning change. Second, like I mentioned, having a lot of people send in letters of support makes it seem as though the community is in favor of zoning changes. Please consider this. All the letters were predicated on Brian sending them an email asking for a letter of support. He did not substantiate it. No one who sent in a letter actually knows what they are supporting because there are no plans. They're just trying to do him a favor. Further, my husband, who you know, doesn't give in easily. He thought, if the whole town is in favor, why don't I go around town and ask the locals what they think? Unlike Mr. Atlas's vague email, my husband showed the townspeople what the zoning change would look like on a map and gave them both background and context. I thought he was crazy, but that's him. Anyhow, in a matter of a week or so, he was able to get, 195 signatures. Pretty impressive, I think. The point is, our city is not all in favor of rezoning. One last point I would like to make is that we, my family, are the only ones who actually live full-time in the area covered by these applications. And we do actually care about what happens. It is our real life being affected here. We read the rules, we built by the rules. We're not trying to change the rules. No family should have to endure what we're going through. It's not right. We have reached out to our neighbors who have lots surrounding Marshall's Harbor, Montecino, and Cottonwood Hollow. You see them all here. And do you know that of all the people we have spoken to, 100% of them oppose it? So I ask you, Councilman, what means more to you? The support of people who have no ties to our neighborhood? People who are under contract with or in some way indebted to Mr. Atlas? Or would you rather support the opinions of we, the people who actually invested in your city, are part of your community, go to your churches, play sports with your kids, are part of, utilize your airport, we see you out running. We care about Lago Vista, and our wish is to continue raising our 3 young children here and to preserve the current PDD in the city's master plan. Thanks.
Thank you. David King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is David King. I live at 17902 Austin Boulevard. I'll be very brief because there's probably everyone in this room has more expertise in this than I do. But I'll offer 2 thoughts. The first is thank you for your service. This is the first meeting I've attended. You guys do this every 2 weeks. This is amazing. Thank you for your service. The point that occurs to me is similar to something I heard when Councilman Robbins spoke earlier in the meeting. And that is, as you consider your vote and you consider the decisions about this zoning request, put yourself in the position of a homeowner who, and we've heard from them, but a homeowner who's there and is being faced with the idea that what they put maybe their life savings or substantially a lot of their life savings into is being changed radically from what they wanted. I think that's pretty important, but I realize there's a lot of matters that you've got to consider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jim Awalt.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. Jim Awalt, 1909 Lowman Ford Road. I just want to just remind, this is just a zoning issue tonight. It's not the end of the world. It's just a zoning issue. I've been here in this community for 20 years. I've watched this development over the last 20 years. When Brian bought it out of bankruptcy, he came to the city and according to their design requirements, engineering requirements, finished the water and sewer, oversized the lines at the request of the city, oversized the lift stations, and it's always been planned for a development. So now we're talking about private property rights and zoning. Frank, back during these conversations, you made a request that, you stay within what's in the ordinances, existing ordinances, and what's in the master plan. They've done that. This falls within the current ordinance and master plan. So, and over 75% of the property owners have voted to approve this. So it's private property rights. There's one house down there, and I think you guys ought to consider it as for what it is. It's a zoning issue. Give them a chance to succeed. The Pilgrims are coming. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Paul Strusaker?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. I think you've heard me once before. I'm Paul Strusaker. I live at 18404 Lakeshore Point, where Nature's Point's at. Been a member of the community since 2007. It's a wonderful place to live. My background, I worked for the NSA and was a Navy nuclear submarine officer, the former Chief Technology Officer of Texas Instrument, and the former Chief Technology Officer of Dell. I came here like everyone else for the same reasons everyone else did. Peace and quiet, nice large lot, keep nature around you, and live by the rules. I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm gonna put a few facts around this. I think everyone who lives as a feed stream from that light that's sitting at Lowman Ford and the entrance into all these communities should have a say on this. Because if we do the densification, and R1t, any fool that knows a little mathematics from grade school can run what the platting could be. Doesn't mean it will be, but it means that what was once, let's see here, 28 lots, if we include both of the things we're going to talk to tonight, will be about 240. But it'll also set a precedence. Aren't there about another 50, 60 lots behind that? And do you think, it's like eating potato chips. Once you eat one, you're just going to have to eat another one. You're going to end up with twice that many again, okay? Now, it just so happens, I know a bunch of people do traffic light studies, and I've looked at the light at Lowman Ford. Every 2 minutes, 5 cars can get through that light. If you produce 240 homes on these 28 lots, okay, there are going to be 480 cars at rush hour. It'll take 2.5 hours to clear that lot, okay? You're going to have a massive change in infrastructure. You're going to need Lowman Ford to be 3 lanes all the way down from at least there, if not, once you get finished with this. You're going to need to completely rebuild that causeway to double the lanes, okay? Just the homes you got, you can run these numbers, 30,000 gallons of water a day, 30,000 gallons of sewage a day. Pretty sure you're going to have to completely rip up all that infrastructure along the way. Okay, I watch y'all fight about a firehouse and $40,000 worth of connect fees. Just wait till you get stuck with this bill, because I've also watched Montecino go up and have nothing done with it, okay? And who got stuck with those bills? There's a building you all need to tear down. It is completely filled with, black fungus? You can see it everywhere. It is a useless building at this point, and nothing but destruction could be useful for it. Someone's sitting on that. I think it's you. Before we all get stuck with this bill, if you're going to work on densification, you better have 40, 50% parkland. That might get people to at least come and agree with things. But you have no zoning of that. We all have to agree that it could be terrible before we could know it could be good. I think it's a lot to ask from people.
Thank you. Matthew Shields.
I'm Matthew Shields at 19005 Veranda Walk. I'm not just here representing myself tonight, but also my wife Kayla and our young baby Pierce. We moved to Lago Vista about 14 months ago after discovering that my wife was pregnant. Her request, we moved out of Lakeway, which was a high density area. Her request is that we didn't end up in somewhere like Leander that was going to be tract housing. So when we found a home in Lago Vista that seemed like a great price, bank owned at the time, it had been foreclosed on. It was smaller size, no yard, but we thought this is a great starter house in a community that's going to grow. And we also bought based on the promise of amenities that we thought were coming, that were going to be good for raising a family. Like my neighbors, I ended up in the Montecino subdivision, one of 3 of the homes on the street. And the neighborhood has not seen any development since I moved in. We're always eagerly awaiting to see any sort of trucks or surveyors or people doing any signs of something that might look like it's leading to construction. My neighbors and myself initially, well, like my neighbors, I was initially for the rezoning proposal because I was operating under the belief, something that I had been led to believe, that this was the only possible way to see my street complete. That the only way that we were ever going to get any of this, what we had sort of been promised, was to assist Mr. Atlas with this rezoning proposal. I wrote a letter to each of you in support of it, which I've since rescinded, because I didn't know the entire scope of what was being proposed. That vote that you've all seen, the 75%, the 97%, there was no vote. It was a contact from Brian telling us of all the great things that were going to happen by supporting this rezoning proposal. I now stand against it. I am not looking forward to seeing tract housing or higher density. And the one thing that I can't seem to see answered from Mr. Atlas's team is if the high density is the answer to this lackluster, dilapidated neighborhood. I have all the same complaints as Mr. Valerio, who spoke earlier, about the lack of mail, the dilapidated buildings, the abject failure of a neighborhood. If the high density is the answer for this, or for selling these lots, then what is the story with Montecino? Why has that sat for 13 years as such a failure? So now here I am in my first home in what looks like a failed community, and practically no ability to sell. So initially in support of it, now completely against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane Deverix. There's a lot of Shane Devericks out there.
I think she's exited.
Is he here? All right, we're going to pass Shane then. Shane went. Becky Cunningham. Becky Cunningham, no?
She's outside.
Becky Cunningham.
Good evening. My name is Becky Cunningham. I've been coming to the North Shore since 1970 with my parents to Point Venture. I am a happy resident, and I want you to know that I am glad that Brian Atlas is planning to develop a senior residence, because I'm 70. I'm looking forward to moving in. Thank you.
Thank you. Guess what, gentlemen? We are out of sheets of paper.
Oh, all right.
I have no more names on the list.
Okay.
Real quick, come to the podium. You wanted to ask the question.
It's on YouTube.
Right, I apologize. My question is, I had read somewhere, I can't quote where it was, but I think I read somewhere about in the documentation for the city council. Oh, oops.
Oh, you broke it.
What did I do? In the document about if there is, prior to approval of modifications of existing PODs, et cetera, developments, basically, the city shall approve of a traffic impact analysis, a TIA. So my question is just that, in regards to these, has there been a TIA done? Is there, I mean, this is an extreme difference to what was agreed upon, a win-win, with both parties being obligated to do things to meet the agreement in 2007 and 2013.
Yeah, that would not be required for this type of
A TIA is
application.
not
Not for this
required.
type of
Not for
app.
rezoning.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it could be. I don't want to steal his thunder.
And even without a PDD, it can be required at the planning stage.
This body can ask for a traffic impact analysis if they want to as part of the evaluation of the case, period.
On a zoning?
Yes, it's in the ordinance. And that's what I was,
And it's specifically listed in the PDD. It's something that you
All right.
Where are we now?
Mr. Mayor, to offer an engineering clarification.
Yes.
With respect to the single point of access, any improvements that are made here with respect to changing the zoning as requested will include additional streets and routes of access. Even the conceptual plan we offered for the Hilltop showed multiple points of access. And so the fact is, if it remains as it is in perpetuity, it'll have that continued long stretch of road without additional access. The approval of the zoning package would provide additional access both for emergency services and egress.
Okay, folks.
We're not platting.
What? All right. All right. Council, questions, comments at this point?
Being that I'm on the planning, Mr. Mayor, being that I'm on the planning and zoning, and I've sat through this numerous times, I guess we've sat through it 4 times, and I've sat through it 4 additional times on top of that. So I've had a lot of experts and people that have had to analyze this situation, and it is just a zoning. I've heard people talk tonight about density. Density comes when they look at platting. They have to come with their custom design, they have to come with their layout, they have to do their traffic study. They're gonna have to do all that in order to get that approved, you know? But I've listened all night long, and it's this person and that person, and I've been out here since 1991, okay? I like the quiet just like everybody else, okay? But we cannot control growth. Like, you can't stop growth once growth gets started. You can kind of handle it a little bit, but you cannot stop it. And I guess my attitude is not one in which I necessarily need it to be quiet. I'd like to see the amenities in the city. I'd like to see restaurants here. I'd like to see, I don't want it to be Lakeway, but I'd like to see it bigger than what it is. I'd like you to be able to go to a restaurant instead of going down to Cedar Park or to Leander to eat a good meal. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more things for kids to do in the neighborhood. So with that comes more rooftops. So I don't know how you get around that. But this is strictly a zoning. This is not looking at what's the neighborhood gonna look like. They have to bring that. They have to bring that in detail. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Do what?
Public hearing's still
open. Yeah, it is still open. Brings up a good point. Where's my paperwork? I've lost. No, that's not it. Got an agenda in here.
Want an agenda?
Wait, I found it. All right. At this time, at 9:17 PM, I am going to close the public hearing. Thank you, sir. All right, so to continue on now, council discussion and possible action. I'm going to go back to where we first started, and that is with the findings that we have to consider. And in my personal opinion, when we look at number one, significant and unanticipated changes that have occurred, in my mind, because it was Marshall's Harbor and his water lights, nothing has been going on out there as far as development other than the two houses. In my mind, the project of water lights, of Marshall's Harbor, the PDD, has been an abandoned project. The parcels of land may not necessarily be abandoned, but that project of Marshall's Harbors has been abandoned and is a significant change moving forward. Whether the parcel will be developed or used, I think as anybody has spoken here tonight, we've heard many stories of how this is a failed development. Nothing has happened for 13 years or 15 years or however long. I'm thinking at this point it's unlikely that this parcel will be developed as Marshall's Harbor. So listening to to everybody with the failures and everything, I'm thinking number one and number two fit. Number three, requested zoning classification is the most appropriate classification for the area. In my mind, I do not agree that R1t is appropriate for this area. I walk through that area, I run through that area, and I look at everything that's around there and the rural residential that this area, and I understand that this is a PDD and it's got some flexibility already built into it. And just looking at the immediate area around this area, I do not believe that R1t is the most appropriate classification for this area. Next. Anyone else? All right, if there's no more comments, then
Well, I think about significant and unanticipated changes is like an earthquake. The land changed.
highways being put in.
Yeah. That hasn't changed.
Mayor, my feeling is that the opposition that we hear the most about is the change in the lot sizes and what that may bring about. I believe that if this was rezoned and was rezoned in a way that the lot sizes could still be larger, that may be a direction to take. Not necessarily being the size that they are now, but something in between, maybe something on the order of half acre or 3/4 acre or 1 acre lots, something of that nature, may be something that would be amenable to everyone. So I think that I agree with you that the requested zoning classification may not be the most appropriate classification for the area.
So you can, if I'm not mistaken, you can add, if you were going to take any kind of action, you could make stipulations on the size of these R1t lots. Is that not correct, moving forward?
Well, we have to vote on the first one first.
No.
No?
No.
I mean, I think you could make a motion could be made to approve with whatever conditions you wanted to include to this ordinance, adding a condition with some kind of minimum lot size. You could, I think you can do that. And I'm getting nods from, folks that,
We'd have to draft the ordinance.
ordinance.
to include that. It's not that hard. I think we went through a similar exercise with the Bobby Ford application, although we never got any further than that. But you may recall we drafted one with some conditions.
But anyway, I just want to let you know that is an option. Anybody else? All right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I have to say I'm really torn on this issue. I'm not sure that we meet the three stipulations that are in 13.20. But I am a very, very staunch believer in property owners' rights. And for whatever reason, why ever they did it, the majority of the property owners in these areas have signed over, given their approval, whatever you want to call it, to this rezoning. And that is a primary concern. But on the other hand, not being certain that we have met these stipulations, and my biggest concern with them is that so much of this is something where you have to deem it. You have to find it. You have to decide on it. And I'm just not sure that we've met those three stipulations.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, it's open for action. All right, hearing none. Motion does not go forward. Nobody took action.
So
What do I do? I can't sit here forever.
Comes back up at the next meeting.
we'll have to take it up again at the next meeting. The applicants are entitled to a decision on their application. And so at some point, the council is gonna have to make a decision on whether to approve or to deny. If you can't
I
get
gave
someone
them
to
a
make.
10, I gave them a 10 count. Nobody took action. So.
If that's your direction, then we'll just put it on the next.
Mayor,
Council
I'll make a
agenda.
motion for purposes of moving this along.
We'll make a motion.
All right, well, So-
Can we reopen it?
Yes.
a motion to reopen agenda item number 3. Do I have to make a motion for that, or can I just reopen it?
You can reopen it and consider the motion.
All right, so I will reopen agenda item number 3 so that we may possibly entertain a motion.
Let me be clear, I'm going to make a motion to move this along. The motion I'm making, I'm pretty sure where it ends up, but let me not get into detail. I move that we approve ordinance 20-02-20-01, deleting lots 50 and 52 from the rezoning.
I'd back that up.
All right, so I have a motion. Was that a second
Yes.
down there?
Second.
All right, I have a motion.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure we're clear about what council's voting on. Councilmember Robbins made a motion to approve the application as it was requested, with the exception of removing lots 50 and 52 from the rezoning, so they would remain as they are zoned today if it's approved
Yes, in the PDD.
In the PDD.
in the PD.
And my question would be, why those 2 lots? What's the
That's
purpose?
the buffer for the existing home that's there.
We haven't discussed that at all, on any level.
Then discuss it.
And that's-
He's making a motion, then you can discuss.
So I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, no?
No, I don't agree. I think we should vote on what's on in front of us
Okay.
without modification.
Well, the motion that I have on the table is what Frank has motioned, and I have a second. If I don't have any further discussion, I will start down here. Did you have something to say?
No.
All right.
Aye.
Aye?
Nay.
Nay?
Nay.
2?
Aye.
Aye?
Nay.
Nay?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is a supermajority, requires a 6-1, and the motion fails 4-3. All right. So now we are back to the application as it has been presented.
I'll make a motion.
No, you, yeah,
Do we not still have to address the application as presented?
No,
No. Okay, so that's
but
it.
you
It's,
can.
We, if somebody, no.
It just
All right.
fails 4-3.
then the motion, then,
another motion can be made. It doesn't have to be as presented.
oh, right.
Okay.
But it could be, a motion could be made to vote on it as presented.
But the, yeah, that
Could
was,
be, it doesn't have to be, yes.
that was the point I was trying to make is give everybody an opportunity, if another motion was going to be made, I was going to give them a 10 count. And if not, I was going to move on to agenda item number 4.
Let me ask a question.
Count it off.
I just have to ask a question.
Okay.
Can the existing way it's written here be kept as where it's a PDD with the exception that Frank made about the 50 and the 52? Or does that have to, do I have to even add that in it? Or could I just say, can they present this instead of a R1t as a PDD to us? Can they do that?
If there's no motion on pass, that's what it's gonna stay.
Yeah.
That's what it is right now.
Yeah, that.
If a
that-
motion does not
no,
pass, it
The short
stays a-
answer, I think,
a PDD.
I apologize for this, guys, but, well, not either. I'm just going to jump right in there. I think the answer is no, because you're suggesting that the zoning district be PDD. You can't do that tonight because the notice is for R1T. Now, we can condition it with a bunch of stuff, but you can't change the name of the
You
district.
can't change the name of it.
And I would argue that you don't have a valid concept plan in front of you either.
Either for PDD.
Well, and it's already in a PDD.
Right, but presumably it would be a different PDD.
Yeah.
Right,
That
right.
required a concept plan and an
Okay, it's just,
we don't even know what that.
yeah.
Are we good?
It's
All right.
failed.
All right, so we'll move on to agenda item number 4. The Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to consider ordinance number 20-02-20-02, an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending a portion of the current Marshall's Harbor Plan Development District, hereinafter to be referred to as the Waterlights Plan Development District, in order to modify the uses and development regulations specifically applicable to the following property, Lot 68 through 73 of Marshall Harbor subdivision. And the public hearing is still open. And we'll start with our staff presentation if he has anything new. If not, questions, comments from council? None? All right, if the applicant would like to address council at this time?
The application is to go from the PDD C2 to R4 and R1A we have provided a concept plan for this hilltop area, and it does include multiple points of access and would still have to go through passing all of the staff review and P&Z and the council's approval as it would go through all the subdivision.
But let me jump in here real quick, Mayor. Plats don't go to the council.
Right.
Right.
Excuse me. Very good, thank you. The point I'm trying to make is the city's current set of regulations and processes is set up to head off a lot of these issues with respect to multiple points of access, not having too many residences located off of a single point of access. And as this zoning change would be approved, all of those regulations would be put into place in any designs that are brought forward. The additional aspect of this hilltop setting is with the topography that's involved, the opportunity to provide some additional open space in order to make the overall hilltop have a much more of an open space feel is reflected in the concept plan that has been brought forward and would represent an opportunity to continue to work towards some of those larger lot and larger products with the view opportunities that exist there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for the applicant? Is that everything from the applicant?
I don't think we have any further comments.
Okay. All right. We'll start at my stack of 4,000 and some odd people again.
Hopefully they all know.
Yes, if you do not have anything new to add, please feel free to skip your turn. And Molly Mitchell.
Just two quick points. Number one, and I've re-urged this, Mr. Robbins pointed out last time, even via Skype, that the difference, that they did a concept plan the second time, so would supposedly be committed to doing that. I would just, again, looking to the statute doesn't say they can't submit something, it doesn't say identical, it said substantially the same. I would submit to you because as we keep hearing, this is a zoning hearing, the zoning change in the first water lights that was rejected and the zoning change sought in this one is if not identical, it is substantially the same, and that is what's required of the statute. Concept plan aside. Number two, the same thing that you've been hearing about this settlement agreement. Having a hotel up here and condos at the bottom was negotiated. Changing it in a vacuum is not appropriate. It's contrary to the 2007 settlement agreement. You shouldn't be making the zoning change, adding condos up top and condos at the bottom. Again, that's in the middle of the HOA discussion, and we would just ask that the council not be there. Thank you. So we do oppose approval of this application.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Zurich just stepped out, I believe, right? He's gone? All right. I will pass on him. Diane, do you wish to speak on this one?
Anything new to say?
I didn't plan anything in my mind for it to be able to get up there, but other than just to agree with Mom that we've been over this and my.
All right, thank you. Angelina or Stuart Bean, last time you donated time.
You go, I'll go.
Mr. Mayor, I need to take the restaurant break.
All right,
I'm in the same boat. Can we do about a 5-minute recess?
You're on a roll.
I could do that, but then we'll have all kinds of chaos.
No, well,
You want to?
all right.
If y'all want me to, I
One
will.
at a time, one at a time.
We'll just slip out
I'll
of
be
it.
here when we vote.
All right, so there was no beans, right? Okay. Sandra Allen? No. Don Morton?
I'd just like to say, it sounds to me like the owner of the property has made a lot of promises, and none of them seem to have come to pass. And it's been confirmed by several people that he's not really made much of a serious attempt in marketing this property. I mean, when you see these big developments, you see the ads on TV. They're marketing the property. I've not seen any about Montalcino, and I just think that's his problem, that's now creating our problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Darren Ginther. All right, I'll get to you. Darren Ginther. No. Christy Devericks. David Villarreal.
Good on what I had said before.
All right. Cody Harden.
I'll pass, but I'm in agreement with the last things on opposition is all I can say.
Michael Smith.
Same, still opposed.
Bruce Reed.
All I want to say is I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. 91T, I don't believe is the appropriate zoning.
R1T.
R1T, sorry.
Anastasia. Do you wish to speak? Okay. Gerald Dusbach?
I feel like this is something that's not anything to do with you guys. I think it's something that it's none of your business how this is being handled, but we just don't want it. That's how we look at it right now. We don't want this extra growth. We don't want this density that he already has right now. I don't know why we're even talking about it.
Thank you. Swan family?
We would still oppose, just hope you listen to the
Okay.
reasons that Molly and the others.
Glenn Chappie?
Nothing more to add, Mayor.
Ray Jones? Excuse me, Ray. Angela Smith? She left. Paul Roberts?
Paul Roberts, 5312 Mirror Lago Drive. This is more than just a zoning change. You're contemplating passing a city ordinance which would be in direct conflict with our CCRs. What city does that? What city passes a city ordinance that's contrary to the CCRs, where there's 90-foot setbacks in the front, 50 on the back, and you're going to pass a city ordinance that's 25 feet in the front, 15 on the sides, 5 feet in the back? We have 100% masonry. You want to pass a city ordinance that's 25% masonry. It's more than just zoning. It's synonymous with platting. It's intellectually dishonest to argue otherwise. To be objective is to look at the totality of this and what your decisions impact. You have a track record of failure. It's not abandoned. The guy's never listed the lots. He did list them, actually. Sorry, I'll bring it down, actually. He listed them, but he never properly listed them. He never properly priced them, and I'm talking about the Hilltop, too. He never properly priced them. He never even put a sign in the yard. And I'm talking about my lot I paid $214,000 for in 2014. He was listing the lot next to me for $400,000 in 2015 when the builder he put me in touch with defrauded me and my family, and we ended up with a home that was abandoned. My home was actually abandoned. That was the only thing that happened on Lago Drive because of the guy that Brian Atlas talked me into using. These lots up there, one of the lots that he's got listed is that corner lot up there at Austin Boulevard and Shoreline Ranch. Why hasn't that lot sold? He listed it in 2015 for, it's a 3-acre lot, 5.21 acre lot. He listed it for $950,000. Didn't put a sign in it. He listed 18504 Marshall's Harbor for $1,850,000, 4.55 acres. That's not properly priced. That's not marketed. That's not abandoned. That's an individual who owns most of the lots choosing not to sell his lots. Not because there's no demand. Nobody's buying them because they're not for sale or they're priced ridiculously for 1 year. This is crazy. Nobody should have to go through this. I played by the rules. I read the rules. I built my home. I'm the one who went out on a limb. He had his chances. He got what he wanted in 2003. Didn't do anything with it. 2007, didn't do anything with it. 2013, 2 development agreements. One of them he's still in breach of. My God, he screwed up the HOA. He's under investigation with the Lago Vista Police Department right now.
All right, time's up. All right, we're at Clara Smith.
I pass, I'm still opposed.
Deanna Roberts.
Deanna Roberts, 5312 Mar-a-Lago Drive. I guess the only thing I have to say, it just doesn't make sense to me. The PDD was planned out, it was figured out. There's an area for condos, there's a retirement, there's single-family homes, there's garden homes, there's estate lots. Like, seems to make sense. He's had people come and say they want a retirement home. You got zoning for it, you didn't do anything. I don't see why we're going to change zoning in an area and now we're gonna have double areas for condos. Or wait, next week, he's gonna wanna put a hotel now because now he has condos in 2 spots. So now we wanna move the condos and put a hotel there. You know, it's just never gonna end. I just think we need to get into it. My family wants our life back. I'd like to have my husband back, not have to worry about this. I wish y'all would just go back, vote on the last one, vote on this one, so we can all move on. Thanks.
We did vote on the last one. No, it failed 4-3.
4-3. Had to have a super majority.
Joe Corso.
Mr. Mayor, I pass.
David King.
Pass.
Jim Awalt. Paul Strusaker.
I'd just like to take a moment on this one. First of all, Mayor and Mr. Mayor and all the council people, thank you for your first decision. I want to make sure when we talk about the new exit that they're talking up there, an extra exit, let's go look at that really carefully. Anybody who's even halfway in elementary school realizes that's the closed-off road right next to the light. In a case of emergency, that road is useless as an egress. The fire station's right there. I just want to make sure you recognize that, of course. Okay, so I just thought that was a little disingenuous in what was going on. And I would also say that while you all don't agree on the R1t, the misuse or the lack of use is, I would say, highly disingenuous. I think the data that you just saw presented is very FMV, fair market value. If the lots and everything were offered at an appraised FMV, would they or would they not sell? With those poor people caught in those houses that got nothing going on, if everything was offered and marketed at FMV. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Don't worry, buddy, I got your back.
Don't call me poor then.
I didn't say, when I say, I'm not talking about your income, I'm talking about your.
Hey.
Whoa.
Jesus. So, be that as it may, the point is, those people in those poor circumstances where they can't get other neighbors, much of this is about one human being's behavior. And it's driving everyone here insane. That we allow it is silly. But let's keep going, because this game's gonna be afoot, I guess, for the next year or so. You know what? Addison said this about the communists in Cuba. I'll be here till hell freezes over. So Merry Christmas, gentlemen. We'll keep this up.
Thank you. Matthew Shields.
Matthew Shields, 19005 Veranda Walk. I'd just like to echo the sentiments of Ms. Roberts that I bought into the initial plan of Montecino. I was okay with being one of the fifth of an acre lots. It's a starter home. It's my first home. I was happy to be in what was going to be a growing community in a small spot. The initial plan, the plan that everybody's agreed to is fine as it is. And if Mr. Atlas could make Montecino a success, I would likely back him in applying the Montecino concept elsewhere. But until that happens, still against. Thank you.
All right, Becky Cunningham.
Yes. I forgot to mention, my home is at 41, did you say Becky Cunningham?
I did.
My home is at 4141 Rockwood Drive. I just want to say I'm ready for a whole new look and feel for Lago Vista. And I think Mr. Atlas is bringing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brian Atlas.
Good evening. First of all, I am very disappointed, but I would like to make a couple of statements if I may. First of all, I think everything that I've heard tonight has been mostly a mischaracterization of me. And I really don't like to talk about the past, but I do have an agreement with the city and all the property owners, and we have CC&Rs. And actually up on this hilltop, I have an agreement in the that every property owner in the subdivision signed stating that we could build condos on the hilltop and we could put in homes, 5 homes per acre. Now, that's quite dense, isn't it? I think the plan that we have submitted to you is a little more than an acre, 1.5 homes per acre, maybe 2. Pretty nice sized lots up there. So on the hilltop, we are way below the density that we're approved in. And in the other area in the subdivision, I know we're past that, but we do have CC&Rs. And our CC&Rs were negotiated. My God, I spent millions of dollars getting an agreement with all the property owners that established the rules. And so when you sit here and someone says to you, that's not agreed to, it is agreed to. Even what we want to do below. If you have the votes, you can make the change. When Mr. Roberts came in, I've been very nice to Mr. Roberts ever since the day he got there. He bought a lot from a guy where it was zoned, and y'all are on lot 50, we have a settlement agreement that y'all have signed and agreed to, along with every property owner in the subdivision. Right next to him on lot 50 is going to be a dry stack storage facility. It's an 8-story building, and the reason it is in that location is because one of the property owners at the time negotiated it to be there, Mr. Redwine. He wanted it there because he wanted it as far away from his house as possible. And this is an 8-story building. It's vertical yachts. It's a beautiful spot for it. I was really going to move it because I didn't think it would be the right thing to do. When Mr. Roberts came here, I had a contract with a company, a home builder, big one, to buy the whole subdivision. I discussed it with Mr. Roberts. I saw how upset he got about it because it was a very low-end builder, so I decided not to do that. I said, you know, And they were going to buy my house and make the community center there, and I didn't want to do that. That wasn't the right thing to do. He just moved in. I said, okay. And then this hotel group came in, and really, that wasn't me. They were buying me out. They met with the city. They met with our mayor, Josh Ray, and they said, this is great. We love it. We're going to make this happen. Well,
All right,
it didn't
Martin,
happen.
your time's up.
I'm not done.
Do what?
I'm not finished.
It's all right.
I'm sorry.
Time's up.
Minutes.
All right, anyone else? All right, well, if that's it, I'm through with all my sheets, so we're, yeah, we're done. So I am going to go ahead at this point and close the public hearing at 9:53 PM. Now, anything else from council? Questions, comments, opinions? No?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I would say is that I have much less grief with this as far as meeting the three requirements of 13.2. Previous zoning was for a motel in a spot that I'm not sure was appropriate to begin with. And the current commercial zoning for that area is not, to my mind, the best zoning to have. So a more appropriate zoning would probably be would be appropriate.
Very well. And I'll agree with you on that. Going back again through the findings, I'm going to repeat that because it's been sitting undeveloped and unchanged for so long, it is my opinion that this, for the most part, Marshall's Harbor's project, the planned development plan, has been abandoned over the years. It has not been marketed, it has not been listed, it has been unused. I don't believe it's going to be developed for what it's currently at. And along with you, I believe that the R1 and R4 zoning is a more appropriate classification than the commercial resort hotel.
The only other thing I would say to our engineer and to everyone, this is just a zoning hearing. We are not discussing access. We're not discussing egress. We're not discussing any of that. And that is not in the consideration of this zoning. Now, we have something that they've showed us, says they might do this. But that has not been submitted for approval. It has not been submitted for replatting. It has not been appropriately vetted for roads, for any of that. So this is simply for the zoning on these lots.
Yes, Frank.
I agree with your point, Mayor. Let me take a couple exceptions to my friend's last comments. Number one, I'm going to discuss access. They've got a paved piece of road that goes to Lowman. In my experience in situations like this, where there's a need for an emergency but not to keep open road, which is essentially what we have now, a couple of things happen. There's a plan worked out and it could be with the fire department or public works and the fire department about how they're going to take that out. Or they put a gate on it so you can pull it up. And that kind of discussion occurs typically during the planning process. And I'm getting the relevant, sir.
There's also a building code, international code conduct requirement for a second means of egress for, I think it kicks in at either 30 or 35.
It's 30.
Somewhere in that.
Yeah.
The first number to 3.
Yeah, I think that, in other words, my point would be for this zoning case, that I think that issue that people are concerned about can get worked out. Second point, this is what's called in the trades a down zoning. You're going from a hotel to single family with 30 condo units, so it's generally speaking considered less intense. That's why they call it a down zoning. They do have to build it pretty much like the ordinance, if it's approved, and we're getting a yes. Now, the Development Services Director and I have gone through this in some detail. I think the single-family layout's a pretty good layout, and they're going to have to build it pretty close to that. So I think that single-family layout is a pretty good one. It's certainly an improvement for what I think this property might get built from what we saw here before. The condo site might be able to be tweaked a little bit, but I and the staff are okay, generally speaking, with the way that's laid out. So you got a down zoning, and I think an important one. Secondly, you've got a pretty well laid out single-family development, and you condo that folks might actually be able to move into. So I'm generally speaking in favor of this zoning.
Anyone else?
I'm good.
All right, if there's no more discussion, I'll accept a motion. One.
Mr. Mayor, make a
Yes.
motion that we ratify ordinance number 20-02-20-02.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll start at the end. David?
Aye.
Aye. Don?
Nay.
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 Aye.
Aye. Aye. Art?
Aye.
Frank's aye. Motion fails 5-2. Requires supermajority. All right, we're going to recess, well, because I'm sure y'all want to go home, and I need to go to the restroom.
Yeah.
You're up next, Darcy.
Darcy's up next.
Darcy? She wants to comment on that next.
It's just gonna be me on the roof.
Oh, no, it's an easy one. And I'll give a staff summary. Everybody's been getting here at 4 o'clock, so we know it's an easy one, so you let me know when I can kick that one off.
I thought for sure
Yes, sir.
I would be able to limit the conversation, and we would be out of here fast. I really misread this one.
Well, and to, not make comment, right? To be quiet. Just don't say, have an opinion. See if I can get some dinner too.
We're not all against development. It's got to be the right team, the right plan. It's got to be legal. If we can't verify these 3 findings, then
But the difference is
Yeah.
they're not gonna have 12 Cs. They're not gonna have a room full of opposition, the 20% rule probably is gonna be.
Right.
And so the shoreline might get some.
Drive safely.
North the cap, bring it back. Shoreline range.
Thanks, sir.
The majority of the property that was in building. Well, yeah, but they're.
Still a little bothered by NC State, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean.
I should have texted, but my team sucks, so I can't text.
Be opposed to it aren't people that are.
Just enjoy the ski trip.
On adjoining properties. No, yeah, but the issues that they're raising.
I think we're about done, right?
About access and traffic.
We'll go without you, don't worry.
Because all that traffic's coming out of this place. They're gonna build a second road. Yeah. They build the second road. It's an outlaw to do. Yeah, you're right.
A year. That's what I said, as long as we got a vote. That's what I said on my mic, as long as we got a vote.
I think they probably going to work something out that not on the side. Oh, okay. Rezoning. But here's the other thing too, that I remember that they said, not only do they want to connect to Lowman Ford in that area, but they also want to connect to Destination Way. So that
Yeah, no, that's really a good idea.
We have 40 and 50 foot lots all over the city that aren't selling. People don't necessarily want to be right beside each other. If your plan's gonna work, show us Montechino, man. Get Montechino going, and you don't put us in this position. We shouldn't be in this position over and over. You come. Montechino's approved for lots of stuff. If you can't make that work without having these other key pieces, as an agent myself for 18 years, it doesn't make sense to me. I know I could sell those 2 to 5 acre lots, not for $900,000, right? But if it was genuine and you were trying to market that property, then or price it at market value to get the first few gone. I have never seen it. I've got these buyers.
He's under contract, so he's out.
Interesting.
I mean, we close on it, he's out.
But it's not about him. It's about you have.
It's an HOAs.
You got something to work with, as far as I'm concerned. You got some great stuff to work with. It's been rezoned twice to make it more dense, and that's been done.
We would really appreciate it. Yes. And you guys would be good about communicating if we could.
I understand. I think I recall that conversation actually. Yeah, from back then.
Really, planning, asked him about it, certainly. I told him, I said, is, and there's no guarantee about anything, but from a capitalization standpoint, you have to be able to demonstrate you can deliver.
That's ringing a bell.
You guys have proven you're not quitters, and you're not giving up on this. And if someone's in a tight spot in a time crunch, you're going to figure that out, and you're going to adjust. And you're going to come up with something that doesn't get all the neighbors in the building.
Yeah.
Stand
by.
Between y'all, and what I think
You
is
still
that
won't
you all
take
get
it.
together and you got a mediator,
No.
a notary.
I haven't seen any Roberts.
And so the
And you
people
got
that
like
can't
30
be there,
people.
send in their
You know what I was
notarized
thinking
individual.
is, you could talk to,
You
could talk to
Mickey,
Mickey, and you could talk to Jim,
And a notary
and
comes
just
to us
tell
and
them to
say,
buy 300 tickets, and then you can just give them away.
People voted that this is what they want
Right?
to do.
That's it. I thought so. Look, tell him I'll sell him 300 tickets right now, and then you can give them out to everybody we want to.
What's been rezoned,
Come on.
if you gotta package it into pieces.
It's just
or
a
have
question.
different
You got a
partnerships, whatever
dialogue
you
with
gotta
him.
do
I can't
make
ask the
something
chief to
start
go
working.
ask him, so but you could ask him, and we could go hand them out. I'll even wear a funny little suit.
Presentation, in my point of view.
Thank you.
If any of this came on the market, right? If any of this.
Your wife can have you back.
We will be in touch.
All right, I'm missing half. Dave.
Dave's right there.
Orange.
I think Art's back over here. Piece of candy.
Miss Dorsey. Miss Dorsey wants to speak on agenda item number 5. She sat here for 4 hours.
Well, we'll let her talk.
Kind of wish we'd have kept some more people to get some more input on that one. Maybe we should have done
On the
that
next
earlier.
item,
Yeah.
this is an easy one. Unlike Darcy, everybody shows up at 4 o'clock now.
Yeah.
So there's
10
no
o'clock
way
in
to
the-
debate it.
10
It
o'clock in
doesn't
the
matter.
morning.
They all show up at 4 o'clock.
Everybody was in here at 5:30.
I wasn't here at 4 o'clock.
These guys are here, 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
they were all
Oh,
here.
the people were?
Yeah, it's packed.
Yeah.
That's because we're not doing our job. They're here because we're not doing it properly up here.
Well, I'm just saying,
We're
but-
rehashing old stuff
Well,
over and over.
I'll say it when we get to the meeting, but
Most of them were up here so they could get a seat.
Yeah.
Our problem is no
Most comfortable seats are up front.
I'll get this. You ready?
Never see back here again.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Next year. It'll be here next year. Sure as I'm sitting here.
Keep them in line, Sandra.
Okay, they're here. They're with you. So you're drinking chocolate.
Oh, I'm good. I got tobacco.
We do.
All right, we reconvene. Do we need timestamps on that? We reconvene at
Yes.
10:07 PM. All right, action item.
Just us.
Number 5. I'm losing my voice already. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding resolution number 20-1835, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, changing the start time for the 2 regular city council meetings scheduled on the first and third Thursdays of each month. 2, let me pull this up. On the right page,
Start time is 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Now, is that with executive session at 6, or are you pushing executive session to 5:30?
Mayor, depending
Or
on.
5 or 4:30, depending on how long
Depending on the executive session, typically, we're saying the max is an hour. So we would kick, if the council went this way, we would kick the executive sessions to a 5 o'clock or a 5:30 so that you can stay on schedule for a regular
So
scheduled
the
meeting
actual
time.
council meeting starts at 6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock. And the Mayor, the reason we've discussed this over and over again is based on the turnout of people getting here at 6 o'clock, and as I made during the recess comment, people are getting here at 4:30, at 5 o'clock. Today, they were here at 4:30 to get seats. I do understand these are different items, but we're seeing that the people that want to be here are showing up majorly, and then now, unfortunately, Darcy is by herself, and the rest of us are here. So I understand that point. I'm just saying that we're seeing people turn out earlier, and then we go into executive, and they wonder why we're not having the meeting at that point. And the majority of these people have asked that question a few times to me, of which we have an answer. But
Well, we could always go back to doing executive session at the end.
No.
Doing it at the beginning worked much better.
Well,
Where we at on?
I'm going to be opposed to the 6 o'clock change time because I really don't care personally because I'm going to be here at whatever time. But yeah, the people that want to be here are coming at whatever appropriate time. But if we change it, now we may be making it where people that do want to come but haven't been just yet, we're already not giving them the choice, by making it at 6 o'clock. I'm thinking of my young families and stuff. Sure, they may not be showing now, but there might be something on the agenda that they want to, and they can't make it at 6 o'clock.
They'll make an exception. They'll make an exception.
We can try it for a while.
Now,
I think it'd be very
I don't know.
aloof
I think it
and
should be-
disconnected of us to go ahead and move that back and forget about all the people that are doing the drive that's worse every day, and eliminating the people that can't get here in time to get a seat is not a good option either, so.
Yeah, and I don't think them making the exception is the right, we should be making the exception for them. There's 5 or 6, 7 of us. So I'm not in favor of 6 o'clock change.
Darcy?
All right, do I have any more? Do I have any more? Hold it.
The whole thing I'd say is, I don't see any reason for the change, personally.
Down here, anybody else? All right, I'd have somebody, if there's no more comments from council, I have Miss Darcy DeVoe signed up to speak.
Darcy DeVoe, 20223 Travis Drive, Unit 12. What I was going to say was, yes, the traffic is getting worse, okay? As you can see tonight, I had to come straight after work. I barely made it here. I walked in at like 6:25, and the room was already full. I stood for 3 hours or 2.5 hours. I don't care. I'll stay. I actually regret not coming to these meetings. I've been here for 6 years, and I was really laxy-daisy and just watching things on TV and on YouTube of you guys and just listening to all the rhetoric going around town. But now that I am involved, I'm hoping other people get involved. And it's just hard. I have a job. There's people that don't live and work up here. I used to work up here, but I couldn't make a living, okay? So now I live or work in Austin and still live out here. And it is a commute. It's a commute, but I do it every day because I have to make money. I'm a single person. And it's an hour and a half in, and at night it's 2 hours home. So I'm on the road 3.5 hours a day. And I understand you guys are tired. You've been at work all day, and then you come to these meetings and you want them to be over and you want to go home to your families. But why don't you pick the agendas? And if you know it's going to be something that's this, like it was tonight, switch that up a little. Put half of it on tonight and half of it the next time. It's like your agenda is what leads how long these are. You know, I mean, it's your agenda. It's like if you put all the stuff that you're going to get 50 people talking about the same thing they said the time before. It's going to be a long meeting, and I understand it's tiring. It's 10:15 right now, and you guys have all probably been here since 7 or 8. I understand that. I get up too at 6 o'clock. So I am just, and I'm not going to be the only one. What? AM. I get up at 6 a.m., okay? And I don't go to sleep until 11. So, and it's a long day, but it's a long commute, and I understand. So I'm just asking you to just give a little bit of thought that people do commute, and the longer that the Lago Vista grows, there's going to be more and more and more people commuting because we can't all work here. I wish I could, but there's not the money that I make downtown out here, and people don't want to pay me that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You've swayed us.
Yeah, the agenda's, it's pretty hard to control. You don't know how many people are going to sign up. I mean, I've seen some of these PDD discussions and nobody signs up. So you just never know. Do we have to rehash all of them twice? No, not necessarily. But I'm going to say yes, we do. Because history has shown that council has maybe not so much this council, but other councils have made rash decisions the first time they heard it. So I'm going to continue to always put things that I think need studying on the agenda for at least 2 hearings. So,
Well, and I also understand that people that are coming out to these, you know, they want to be heard also. So you can't say you can't speak, you know, and hush people up. If you've got 50 people to speak, 50 people speak. So I understand that.
you know, so we have looked at shifting, you know, all action items to one part of the month and discussion items on another, and that's kind of how we're doing it, but it's hard to control the agenda. But anyway, anybody else in the audience? All right.
We've had audience with fewer people than you. Nobody, except us.
All right, anybody else, anything else from council?
You ready for action?
All right, we'll entertain, it's up for possible action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we do not approve resolution number 20-1835.
Second.
All right, we have the motion to not approve the resolution, and I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Josh, you're just going to have to stay later.
Mayor, I just want to see you start driving some people to the meetings. That's what I'm happy to see them show up and see them get in here.
I pack the house all the time. I'm as controversial as I can be on social media.
No, you're not.
Oh, I try to egg people on all the time.
There you go. We got a new topic.
I do? Oh.
Whatever.
I'll come up with something next month. All right.
I can't wait for the headlines tomorrow.
Consent agenda. Hey,
We have 2 people.
we have somebody else here.
All right.
Consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We're looking at the approval of the January 16, 2020 regular council meeting. meeting minutes. Approval of resolution number 20-1834, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, authorizing the use of city streets for the 29th Annual La Primavera Lago Vista Bicycle Race to be held February 29th and March 1st, 2020. And number 9, approval of resolution number 20-1836, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, accepting by special warranty deed 4.4260 acres of property donated by Heinz Lake Travis Land 2 Limited Partnership, dedicating the property as parkland and authorizing execution of special warranty deed. And at the request of Heinz Lake Travis Land 2 Limited Partnership, number 10 has been pulled.
Number 10 is pulled.
So we are only considering 7, 8, and 9. Oh, I'm sorry, and 11. Approval of the sale of real property adjacent to 3102 Point Cove to Mr. Chris Minjares.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
do we have to have a discussion, or can I make a motion?
it is up to you.
Mr. Mayor,
There's a
make
consent
motion that
agenda.
we Approve the consent agenda
I second.
on items 7, 8, 9, and 11.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. I have a question for the discussion. If we didn't approve number 8, would they ride on the grass?
Just
Good
try it
question.
and let's see
Would
what
they wear
happens, I
helmets?
suppose, Mayor.
Just wonder.
Maybe
Okay.
Cross country.
All right, so I have the motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, consent agenda is approved unanimous.
Are you gonna ever have that skateboard tournament again?
They didn't come back this year
Darn.
because it was earlier in the year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So I guess our downhill was not downhill enough. I don't know.
Well, with the potted roads and everything else, the danger factor had to go up.
All right, discussion items. City manager report.
No report, Mayor.
Future meetings. Consider our schedule and any items for future council meetings. What
Mayor,
do we have on the list already?
I won't be here for the next council meeting.
Neither
Be
will
going
I.
to a TML meeting, conference rather.
I changed my plans. I will be here.
All right, so
What do
we
you think's
have,
gonna be on the agenda next time, you know?
Mayor, we have, I think, 5 items right now that we've added for this upcoming agenda. We do have, potentially, we have the Nature's Point development agreement coming to the council. We have a CIP update. We have property located behind the police department.
Liaison, wasn't it?
We have, I'm not sure if that was the 5th. We were going to move that to just to the next discussion, since Councilor Davila was not going to be here. It's going to be the 19th.
Possibly
The audit report is on the 5th.
possibly a strategic planning.
A strategic plan firm selection. We finished the interview, so that'll be on the 5th. It could be an action item or it could be postponed, so.
I have one item that's a little strange. If we don't have a full slate of council members in attendance, we have a conditional use permit application with P&Z recommended denial simply because the applicant screwed up and didn't show up. You know, once again, if people are not gonna be here, it would probably be best if we have to open the public hearing, but we would ask you to defer that consideration and keep that public hearing.
We can always leave it open.
So you made notice of it.
Yes, and I don't want to re-advertise.
Yeah.
And also the Lakeshore annexation.
Right.
Potentially Lakeshore Boulevard, which is another development project. We will have that one on there too. So once again, Mayor,
It's going
unfortunately,
to be a long meeting.
every meeting is a long meeting, and there are items that are due to be on the council agenda, and we just present them and we bring extra candy.
And 30 minutes is just 30 minutes.
We're gonna need some protein.
Maybe some beef stick, jerky.
Yeah, there you go.
Some Jack Link. I thought I saw a Sasquatch out there earlier
Does
today.
barbecue have a reason to be before us for any reason?
So that's all the items that we have now, Mayor, which I think is plenty.
Let me, can
anything
I ask a
new?
question about the Lakeshore deal? Are we gonna have like a development agreement and annexation to consider that night? Or is this a presentation before they actually make a?
Plan now would be first hearing and consideration.
That one's gonna take more than one, Mayor.
Well, you know how I
Well, every-
operate.
Because you guys know what's gonna happen with on that development agreement.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we'll see if we get somewhere between 14 and 37 questions.
Well, we'll discuss it then. Anything else?
Well, and these particular gentlemen might be amenable to meeting with you guys in small groups.
Yeah, they're calling.
Yeah, they called.
No. Well, I'm talking about Lake Shore, not Shoreline Ranch.
Oh,
And that's why I don't know what questions Council Robbins is talking about. I'm talking Lake Shore is totally different
Yeah, it's the
than Shoreline Ranch.
condo, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Where's that?
but that, it's,
whole different deal.
We got an action item on there, so discussion, action, whatever you want.
All right, we good?
Good.
All right, I will call this meeting adjourned at 10:23 PM.
That, recess. Every item got an action.
Oh, barely.
Hey, every item got an action. That was the purpose, right?
I had to wake council up.
Check the car bonds.